The knife went in clean, 3 inches below Lucian Cross's ribs, while Amara watched from 15 feet away, her paintbrush frozen mid-stroke. Blood spread across his white shirt like spilled ink. The man holding the blade smiled. Lucien didn't flinch. He just looked at Amara, and in that split second before everything exploded into violence, she understood. He would die before letting her see another day like the ones that came before him. This is their story, a collision of survival, obsession, and the kind of love that doesn't save you, it remakes you. Drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this tale travels. Hit that like button. Let's begin. Rain hammered the windows of Moretti's bakery like it wanted in, like it knew something was coming. The neon sign outside buzzed and flickered, casting sick pink light across the cracked tile floor where Amara worked on her hands and knees, scrubbing dried dough from the grout with a wire brush that tore her knuckles raw. Blood mixed with dirty water. She didn't stop. Stopping meant her aunt noticed, and her aunt noticing meant another hour added to the shift. Another insult screamed across the kitchen. Another reminder that gratitude was a debt that never got paid off. 18 years old, and Amara looked 30. Hollow cheeks, dark circles carved so deep under her eyes they looked bruised. Hair pulled back tight enough to hurt because neat meant invisible and invisible meant safe. Her uniform hung off her frame, 2 sizes too big because she hadn't bought new clothes in 3 years. Everything went to the debt her mother supposedly left behind when she died. The debt her aunt reminded her of every single morning while counting out the day's register with nicotine-stained fingers. "You're slow," Aunt Carmen said from behind the counter, not even looking up. "Pathetic." Amara's hands kept moving. Scrub, rinse, scrub. The brush handle dug into her palm hard enough to leave marks. She focused on that pain instead of the words because the words had stopped landing years ago. They just piled up now, somewhere behind her ribs, a weight she carried that nobody could see. The afternoon crowd thinned out. Businessmen gulped down burnt coffee and stale pastries before disappearing back into the rain. College students camped at corner tables with laptops and empty cups they'd been nursing for hours. The usual ghosts. Amara moved between them like smoke, refilling sugar dispensers, wiping tables, existing in that particular kind of invisibility that comes from being so thoroughly unremarkable that people look right through you. She almost preferred it. Almost. Because sometimes, late at night when the bakery finally closed and she climbed the narrow stairs to the storage room where her aunt let her sleep on a cot between the flour sacks, she remembered being seen. Really seen. Her mother used to look at her like she mattered, like the sketches Amara drew in the margins of school notebooks were worth something, like the future could be different than the past. But her mother was dead 6 years now, and the future looked exactly like today, which looked exactly like yesterday, which would look exactly like tomorrow until Amara's body finally gave out or her aunt found a reason to throw her into the street. "Coffee," someone said. Amara grabbed the pot without looking up. She'd perfected the art of service without eye contact. Pour. Smile with your mouth, but not your eyes. Move on. The customers didn't want connection. They wanted caffeine and a place to sit out of the rain. She started pouring. The cup shattered in her hand. 1 second it was whole. The next it exploded into pieces, ceramic shards biting into her palm, hot coffee splashing across her wrist. Amara gasped. Not loud, just a sharp intake of breath, and jerked back. Blood welled up immediately, bright red against her pale skin, dripping onto the cracked tile she'd been scrubbing all morning. The customer swore. Someone's chair scraped. The whole bakery went quiet in that terrible way that meant everyone was looking. "You stupid girl!" Aunt Carmen's voice cracked across the room like a whip. Her footsteps came fast, heels clicking on tile. "Look what you've done! That's coming out of your pay!" Amara pressed her bleeding hand against her uniform, trying to stop the drip, trying to disappear. "I'm sorry. I didn't..." "Didn't what? Didn't break another cup? Didn't waste another pot of coffee?" Carmen grabbed Amara's wrist and yanked it up, displaying the cut to the room like evidence. "You see this? This is what I deal with. Every day. Worthless. Can't do the simplest thing without making a mess." Blood ran down Amara's forearm. She could feel every pair of eyes in the bakery on her. Heat crawled up her neck, her vision blurred at the edges. "I'll clean it," she whispered. "You'll clean it." Carmen's laugh was ugly. You'll clean it and you'll work an extra shift and maybe you'll start pulling your weight around here instead of being dead weight like your mother was. Something inside Amara cracked. Not broke. She'd been broken for years. This was different, smaller, a fracture in the foundation that held her together. Her mother wasn't dead weight. Her mother was kind and soft and warm, and she died trying to protect someone. And she deserved better than being spat on in a dying bakery by a woman who wore cruelty like jewelry. Amara opened her mouth. She didn't know what would come out, but something was coming, finally, after 6 years of silence. "Touch her again," a man's voice said from the back corner. "And this place burns." The bakery went still. Amara's head snapped up. Through the haze of humiliation and pain, she saw him. Tall, mid-30s maybe. Black suit that probably cost more than the bakery made in a month. Dark hair pushed back from a face that looked carved from something cold and permanent. He sat in the corner booth like he'd been there the whole time, which was impossible because Amara would have noticed. You couldn't miss someone like that. He stood. The movement was smooth, controlled, the kind of physical confidence that came from never having to prove anything. Every person in the bakery tracked him as he crossed the room. His shoes didn't make a sound. Carmen's grip on Amara's wrist loosened. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." He stopped 3 feet away. His eyes stayed on Carmen, but Amara felt his presence like heat. "Let her go. This is my niece, my business. Not anymore." The man reached into his jacket. Carmen flinched. He pulled out a wallet, extracted a black credit card, and held it between 2 fingers. "The debt. Whatever she supposedly owes you, name the price." Amara's pulse hammered in her throat. This wasn't real. People didn't do this. Men didn't walk out of corners and offer to pay off debts they knew nothing about. This was a fever dream brought on by blood loss and exhaustion. Carmen's eyes went sharp, greedy. 20,000. "Liar," the man said without emotion. "Try again." 30. "She's been here 6 years, room and board, education costs. She's been here 6 years working 70-hour weeks for no pay while you pocketed the profits and called it debt." His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. Every word landed like a verdict. "There is no debt, there never was. But I'll pay you 10,000 right now to walk away and never contact her again." Amara couldn't breathe. Her hand throbbed. Blood still dripped onto the floor. None of this made sense. Carmen's face went red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "Lucian Cross." The name hit the bakery like a gunshot. Someone gasped. A chair scraped. The college student in the corner packed up his laptop so fast he knocked over his cup. Amara knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. Lucian Cross wasn't a businessman. He was the reason businessmen paid protection money. He was the rumor parents used to scare kids away from the South Side. He was the face that appeared in news reports about gang violence and disappeared before charges could stick. He was power and danger and untouchable in a way that made politicians nervous. And he was standing in Moretti's bakery offering to pay her aunt $10,000. Carmen's grip on Amara's wrist turned painful. "This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me." Lucian's eyes finally moved to Amara. Met hers. Something passed between them that she didn't understand. Recognition, maybe, or something heavier. "She's coming with me." "Like hell she is." 10,000. Now. Or I make a phone call and this building doesn't pass its next health inspection, or fire inspection, or any inspection you need to keep operating. He tilted his head slightly. "Or I buy the property outright and evict you tonight. Your choice." The silence stretched. Somewhere outside, a car alarm went off. Rain kept hammering the windows. Carmen let go of Amara's wrist. "Cash. Wire transfer. You'll have it in an hour." Lucian pulled out his phone, typed something, and slid it back into his pocket. "Done. The girl leaves with me. You never contact her again. If you do, I'll know, and we'll have a very different conversation." "You can't just—" "I can. I did." He looked at Amara again. "Get your things." Amara's mouth opened, closed. Her hand hurt. Her head spun. This was insane. I don't know you." "No," Lucian said, "but I know you." That should have been terrifying. It was terrifying, but underneath the terror was something else. Something Amara hadn't felt in so long she barely recognized it. Hope. The kind of dangerous, desperate hope that got people killed. Don't go with him, Carmen said, and for the first time there was fear in her voice. Real fear. Amara, listen to me. You don't know what you're doing. Neither do you. Amara pulled her hand away. Blood had soaked through her uniform. She looked at Lucian Cross, the stranger who knew her name, who'd sat in the corner and watched her humiliation, who'd just paid $10,000 for her freedom. I don't have things to get. Then let's go. He turned and walked toward the door. Amara followed. She didn't know why. Didn't know where they were going. Didn't know if she'd just made the worst decision of her life or the first good one. Her legs shook. Her hand dripped blood on the tile. Every step felt like walking off a cliff. Carmen called after her. You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back and I won't take you. Amara didn't look back. Outside, the rain hit her like a wall, cold and sharp and immediate. A black car sat at the curb, sleek, expensive, windows tinted dark enough to hide whatever happened inside. A man in a gray suit held the rear door open. Lucien gestured for Amara to get in first. She hesitated. I'm not going to hurt you, Lucien said. Water ran down his face, but he didn't blink. You have my word. Your word, Amara's voice came out hoarse. I don't know what that's worth. More than hers. He nodded back toward the bakery. Get in the car, Amara. Let me explain. She got in. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. The seats were soft, warm. The door closed behind Lucien and suddenly the rain noise cut off, replaced by silence so complete it rang in Amara's ears. The driver pulled away from the curb. Amara pressed her bleeding hand against her chest and tried to remember how to breathe. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Lucien reached into a compartment and pulled out a first aid kit. Give me your hand. I can do it myself. You're shaking. She was. Amara extended her hand. Lucien took it carefully, his fingers warm and dry against her skin. He opened an antiseptic wipe and cleaned the cut with steady pressure. It stung. Amara bit the inside of her cheek and watched him work. Why? She asked. Why what? Why pay for me? Why sit in that bakery? Why know my name? The questions came faster now, months of silence breaking apart. Why any of this? Lucien applied butterfly bandages across the deepest part of the cut. His hands were steady, scarred, the kind of hands that had done terrible things and would do them again without hesitation. Because I made a promise, he said. To who? Your mother. Amara's world tilted. What? Elena Vall saved my life 8 years ago during a situation that should have killed me. Before she died, she made me swear that if anything happened to her, I'd look after you. Lucien wrapped gauze around her palm, his voice even. I've been watching you for 6 years, waiting for the right moment to pull you out without putting you in more danger. Watching me. The words tasted like metal. You've been watching me. Yes. That's... Amara yanked her hand back. That's insane. You're insane. Maybe. Lucien closed the first aid kit. But you're out now. That bakery, your aunt, the debt that never existed, it's over. And what do I owe you? The question hung between them. Outside, the city blurred past. Rain-slicked streets and neon signs and buildings that climbed toward a sky the color of bruises. Lucien looked at her. Really looked. His eyes were dark. Not brown, not quite black. Something in between that caught the light wrong. Nothing. You owe me nothing. Everyone wants something. Not from you. Then what? I want you safe. His voice dropped. That's all. Safe. Healthy. Alive. Everything else is your choice. Amara's chest hurt. 6 years of survival had taught her that nobody did anything without wanting something back. Kindness was currency. Protection was debt. But Lucien Cross sat across from her in a car that probably cost more than her life and said the words like they were simple. True. Where are you taking me? She asked again. My home. There's a guest wing. Private. Secure. You can stay as long as you need. And if I say no, then I'll take you anywhere else you want to go. Lucien leaned back. But I'm asking you to trust me. Just for tonight. Let me show you that not everything is a trap. The car turned. Through the window, Amara saw the city changing. Wealthier, cleaner, buildings with doormen and trees planted in neat rows. This wasn't her world. This was the world people like her cleaned and served and disappeared into. "I don't trust anyone," she said. "Smart." Lucien almost smiled. Almost. "Trust is earned. I'll earn it." The car pulled through a gate that opened automatically. They climbed a long driveway lined with lights. At the top sat a house. No, an estate. Glass and steel and stone that looked like it grew out of the hillside. Through the windows, Amara could see the entire city spread out below, lights glittering like broken glass. The car stopped. Amara's hand throbbed. Her uniform was ruined. She smelled like coffee and blood and 6 years of desperation. This was a mistake. This was insane. She should run. She should— "Come inside," Lucien said. "You're safe here." She followed him anyway. The house was all open space and clean lines. Marble floors, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows that made it feel like standing in the sky. A woman in a black dress appeared, older, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled into a neat bun. "This is Margaret," Lucien said. "She runs the household." "Margaret, this is Amara Vale. She's our guest. Please prepare the east wing." Margaret looked at Amara's bloody hand and ruined uniform without judgment. "Of course. Miss Vale, if you'll follow me, I'll show you to your room." "I can—" Amara started. "She's exhausted," Lucien said, not to Margaret but to Amara. "Let her help you." Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the way Margaret smiled at her like she was a person instead of a problem. Amara followed the older woman through halls lined with art she couldn't name, past rooms bigger than the entire bakery, up a staircase that curved like water. The guest wing was on the 3rd floor. Margaret opened a door and Amara stepped into a space that looked like it belonged in a magazine. King bed, private bathroom, a window seat overlooking the city, everything clean and white and untouched. "There are clothes in the closet," Margaret said. "They should fit. Bathroom is stocked. If you need anything, use the phone by the bed. Kitchen, medical, security. Just dial the number." "Security," Amara repeated. "Mr. Cross takes the safety of his guests very seriously." Margaret's expression was carefully neutral. "You're protected here, Miss Vale. Rest. I'll have food sent up." She left before Amara could argue. Alone, Amara sank onto the edge of the bed. Her hand hurt. Her head hurt. Everything hurt. She looked around the room, this beautiful, pristine, completely unreal space, and tried to understand what had just happened. Lucien Cross. Her mother. A promise. 8 years of watching. It should have been creepy. It was creepy. But underneath the creepiness was something else. Something that felt like being seen for the first time in 6 years. Amara stood and walked to the window. Below, the city spread out in all directions. Somewhere down there was Moretti's bakery, still open, still serving burnt coffee to people who looked through the staff. Somewhere down there was the storage room where she'd slept on a cot between flour sacks. She wasn't there anymore. A knock on the door made her jump. "Yes, it's me," Lucien's voice. "Can I come in?" Amara hesitated. "It's your house." The door opened. Lucien had changed into dark jeans and a black shirt. Casual. But the way he moved was still controlled, still predatory, still wrong in a way Amara couldn't name. "How's the hand?" he asked. "Fine." "Liar?" He crossed the room and sat on the window seat, leaving space between them. "You don't have to pretend here." "I don't know how to be anything else." "Then learn." Lucien looked out at the city. "You have time now. Use it." Amara sat beside him, not close, but not far. "Tell me about my mother." So he did. He told her about a night 8 years ago when a gang war erupted in the South Side and Lucien took 3 bullets meant for someone else. About stumbling into a clinic that should have been closed. About a nurse named Elena Vale who stayed late to inventory supplies and instead spent 6 hours keeping him alive while his enemies hunted the streets outside. He told her about Elena refusing payment, about her making him promise, actually promise, hand over heart, that if anything happened to her, he'd watch over her daughter, make sure she was safe, make sure she had a future. He told her about the day Elena died. A car accident. Random. Meaningless. and how he'd gone to the funeral and seen Amara, 12 years old, hollow-eyed, already disappearing, and known he couldn't just step in. Not then. Not when she was a child and he was a criminal. So he waited. Watched. Made sure her aunt didn't cross certain lines. Waited for the moment when pulling her out wouldn't make things worse. Today, he said. Today was that moment. Amara's throat burned. You should have come sooner. Maybe, but I'm here now. Why? The question broke. Why keep a promise to a dead woman? Why watch some random girl for 6 years? What do you get out of this? Lucian turned to look at her. His face was unreadable. Your mother saw me bleeding out on her clinic floor and didn't call the police. Didn't turn me away. She looked at me like I was worth saving. No one had done that in 20 years. He paused. I owe her a debt I can never repay, but I can keep you safe. That's what I get. That's not enough. It is for me. Amara wanted to argue, wanted to find the trap, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave, and suddenly she couldn't keep her eyes open. Her body remembered that she'd been awake for 36 hours, that she'd worked a double shift on 2 hours of sleep, that she hadn't eaten since yesterday. You need to rest, Lucian said. He stood. We'll talk more tomorrow. For now, sleep, eat, heal. Everything else can wait. He walked to the door. Lucien. He stopped. Thank you, Amara said. The words felt foreign. For getting me out. Don't thank me yet. His hand rested on the doorframe. You don't know what my world looks like. Once you do, you might wish you stayed in that bakery. The door closed. Amara sat alone in the too-clean room and wondered if he was right. But when she closed her eyes, she didn't see the bakery. She saw her mother's face. Kind, tired, hopeful. Look after my girl, Elena must have said. Promise me. And Lucien Cross, feared crime lord, untouchable king, monster in an expensive suit, had kept that promise. Amara fell asleep on top of the covers, still wearing her ruined uniform, her bandaged hand curled against her chest. For the first time in 6 years, she slept without flinching at every sound, without waiting for her aunt's footsteps, without the weight of debt crushing her lungs. She slept like someone who'd finally stopped running. But downstairs, in an office lined with surveillance monitors and locked filing cabinets, Lucien Cross sat in the dark and looked at a photograph he'd carried for 8 years. Elena Vale smiling at the camera, paint on her hands, her daughter beside her covered in the same paint. I kept my promise, he thought. She's safe now. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out a file, and started making phone calls. Because keeping Amara safe meant eliminating threats. And her aunt wasn't the only threat circling. There were men in the city who trafficked girls, men who'd been watching Moretti's bakery, men who had plans for Amara that involved breaking her in ways that couldn't be fixed. Lucien had known about them for weeks. He'd been waiting. Now, with Amara finally safe behind his walls, he could stop waiting. The first call went out at 2 a.m. By 3 a.m., 3 addresses were being raided. By 4 a.m., bank accounts were frozen. By dawn, 2 men were in the hospital and 5 more had disappeared into the kind of holes people didn't climb out of. By the time Amara woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize, the immediate threat was gone. But threats had a way of multiplying in Lucien's world, and Amara was about to learn exactly what she'd stepped into. Amara woke to silence so complete it felt wrong. No traffic noise. No shouting from the street. No clattering pans or Carmen's voice cutting through walls like a serrated knife. Just quiet. Clean. Expensive quiet that pressed against her ears until she sat up fast, heart hammering, reaching for threats that weren't there. The room came into focus. White walls. Massive bed. Windows showing a city she recognized but had never seen from this angle. Up here where the powerful lived, where the air probably tasted different. Her hand throbbed. The bandage had bled through during the night, dark red seeping into white gauze. Real. This was real. She was in Lucien Cross's house, and her aunt was miles away, and everything had changed so fast her brain couldn't catch up. A knock. 3 precise raps. Yes? Her voice came out rough. Margaret opened the door carrying a tray. Steam rose from a covered plate. Coffee in a real ceramic mug, not the chipped disaster Amara had been using for 6 years. Good morning, Miss Vale. I thought you might be hungry. Amara's stomach clenched. When had she last eaten? Yesterday morning. Stale bread behind the counter when Carmen wasn't looking. I can come down. Mr. Cross thought you'd prefer privacy this morning. Margaret set the tray on the bedside table. He's in meetings until noon. He asked if you'd join him for lunch. 1 o'clock in the garden. The garden. Amara repeated the words like they were foreign. Rich people had gardens. She had a storage room. Take your time. There's no rush here. Margaret smiled, and it looked genuine. The clothes in the closet should fit. If they don't, let me know and I'll arrange alterations. She left before Amara could ask the 100 questions building in her throat. Alone again. Amara lifted the cover off the plate. Eggs. Real eggs, not the powdered institutional shit Carmen bought in bulk. Toast that looked handmade. Fruit cut into precise pieces. Her hands shook, picking up the fork. She ate like someone was going to take it away. Fast, mechanical, barely tasting. The coffee was good. Too good. She had 3 cups and felt her pulse kick up, nervous energy flooding her system with nowhere to go. The closet Margaret mentioned turned out to be a walk-in the size of her old sleeping space. Clothes hung in neat rows. Jeans, shirts, dresses she'd never have occasion to wear. Everything looked new. Tags still attached. Size 6, her exact size. He's been watching you for 6 years. The words came back sharp. Amara pulled a pair of black jeans off the hanger, found a gray sweater that looked simple enough not to draw attention. She dressed quickly, avoiding the full-length mirror until the last second. When she finally looked, she barely recognized herself. Clean clothes, clean skin, hair that wasn't pulled back so tight it hurt. She looked young, fragile, like someone who needed protection. She hated it immediately. The guest wing had a bathroom with a shower that probably cost more than Carmen made in a year. Amara stood under water hot enough to hurt and scrubbed 6 years of the bakery off her skin. The cuts on her hand screamed when soap found them. She didn't stop. Pain meant real. Pain meant she wasn't dreaming. By the time she dried off and redressed, it was past 11. 2 hours until lunch. 2 hours to explore or hide or figure out what the hell happened next. Amara opened the bedroom door. The hallway stretched in both directions, all clean lines and expensive art. She picked left at random and started walking. Her footsteps made no sound on the plush carpet. Doors lined the walls, all closed. She didn't open them. This wasn't her house, wasn't her world. The stairs curved down to an open living space that looked like something from a magazine. Leather furniture. A fireplace that probably worked. Windows everywhere showing the city and sky. No one around. The house felt empty, despite being massive. Amara found the kitchen by following the smell of coffee. Margaret stood at a counter chopping vegetables with the kind of precision that spoke of decades of practice. She looked up when Amara entered. Feeling better? I don't know what I'm feeling. Amara leaned against the doorframe. Is he really in meetings? Conference calls. His office is on the West Wing. He doesn't like to be disturbed during business hours. What kind of business? Margaret's hands never stopped moving. Chop, chop, chop. The kind that keeps this household running and half the city employed. That's not an answer. No, it's not. Margaret swept the vegetables into a bowl. But it's the answer you'll get from me. If you want to know what Mr. Cross does, ask him yourself. Fair. Amara pushed off the doorframe. Can I help? Help? With whatever you're making. I know my way around a kitchen. Margaret studied her. Something shifted in her expression. Maybe respect. Maybe pity. You don't have to work here, Miss Vale. I know, but sitting in that room alone is going to drive me crazy. A pause. Then Margaret pulled out a second cutting board and knife. Dice these peppers, uniform pieces. We're making lunch. They worked in silence. Amara fell into the rhythm easily. This she understood. Prep work, following instructions, making herself useful. Her hand hurt, but she ignored it. Margaret didn't comment on her speed or the way she held the knife like someone who'd spent years in commercial kitchens. How long have you worked for him? Amara asked. 15 years. That's a long time. He's a good employer, fair, loyal. Margaret rinsed lettuce under cold water. People don't stay that long if they're not treated well. Even though he's... Amara stopped. Saying it out loud felt dangerous. A criminal? Margaret didn't flinch. Yes, even though. The world isn't as simple as good people and bad people, Miss Vale. Sometimes it's just people trying to survive the best way they know how. Is that what he's doing? Surviving? You'd have to ask him. 1 o'clock came fast. Margaret shooed Amara out of the kitchen with instructions to find the garden through the east doors. Amara followed the directions and stepped outside into a space that didn't belong in the city. Trees. Real trees. Not the half-dead things planted in sidewalk cutouts. Flowers in beds that looked tended by someone who cared. Stone pathways. A table set for two under a pergola wrapped in vines. The city noise barely reached here. It felt like a pocket dimension. Safe. Separate. Lucien was already sitting. He changed into dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual. But there was nothing casual about the way he watched her approach. Focused, intense, like he was cataloging every detail. "You slept," he said. 12 hours. Amara pulled out the chair across from him. "I didn't mean to." "Your body needed it." He poured water from a pitcher into her glass. "How's the hand? Hurts?" "Let me see." She extended her arm. Lucien unwrapped the gauze carefully. The cut looked angry, red and swollen at the edges. He frowned. "This needs proper attention. I'll have my doctor come by tonight." "I don't need a doctor." "Yes, you do." He rewrapped the bandage with the same precision he'd used in the car. His fingers were warm, steady. Infection is nothing to ignore. Margaret appeared with lunch. Grilled chicken, salad, the peppers Amara had diced. She set the plates down and disappeared without a word. They ate. Amara tried not to wolf the food down. Tried to remember table manners she'd abandoned years ago. Lucien ate slowly, methodically, his attention never fully leaving her. "You have questions," he said. "About 1,000. Start with the most important one." Amara set down her fork. "What happens now? What do you want to happen?" "Don't!" The word came out sharp. "Don't turn this around. You pulled me out of that bakery. You brought me here. You said I was safe. But safe from what? Safe for how long? What's the plan?" Lucien leaned back in his chair. "There is no plan. Not the way you're thinking. You stay here as long as you need. You figure out what you want to do with your life. I make sure nothing from your old life touches you. That's it." "That's it?" Amara laughed. It sounded bitter. "You're a crime lord. People like you don't do things without wanting something back." "People like me?" His expression didn't change. "What do you know about people like me?" "I know you scare everyone in that bakery with just your name. I know you made 3 men disappear last night. Don't look surprised. I heard Margaret on the phone this morning. I know you've been watching me for 6 years, and that's either protective or obsessive, and I can't tell which." Silence. A bird called from somewhere in the garden. The city hummed in the distance. "Both," Lucien said finally. "It's both." The honesty hit harder than a lie would have. Amara's pulse kicked up. "Explain." "Your mother made me promise to keep you safe. I took that promise seriously, maybe too seriously." He picked up his water glass but didn't drink. "I had people watch the bakery, report on your aunt's treatment of you, make sure certain lines weren't crossed. For 6 years I told myself I was being patient, waiting for the right moment. But the truth is I couldn't stand the thought of you suffering, and I couldn't justify stepping in without making things worse. So I watched. And the watching became..." He stopped. "Became what?" "Necessary." The word came out quiet. "You survived. Every day you walked into that bakery and you survived. Most people would have broken. You didn't. That kind of strength is..." He shook his head. "I'm not good at this, at explaining. But I need you to understand that my interest in your safety isn't neutral. It's personal." Amara's throat felt tight. "Personal how? I saw myself in you, the way you disappeared into corners, the way you took hits without flinching. I did that. Years ago. Before I learned to hit back." Lucien set down the glass. "Your mother saw something worth saving in me when I was bleeding out. You reminded me that maybe she was right, that maybe survival isn't the same as being broken. So this is about redemption." The words tasted like ash. "You're saving me to feel better about yourself." "No." His eyes met hers. Dark. Unreadable. "I'm saving you because your mother asked me to, and because you deserve better than what you got. If that helps me sleep at night, that's a bonus. But this isn't about me. Everything is about something. Then ask yourself what I've asked for. I gave you a room, clothes, food, safety. What have I demanded in return? Nothing. He demanded nothing. The realization sat heavy in Amara's chest. Why? Because taking without giving is what broke me the first time. Lucian stood. Come with me. There's something I want to show you. She followed him through the garden, past the house, to a separate building she hadn't noticed. Smaller, single story. Glass walls showing an open interior filled with light. Lucian unlocked the door. After you. Amara stepped inside and stopped. Art studio. That's what this was. North-facing windows, easels. A table covered in paint tubes and brushes still in packaging. Canvases stacked against the wall. Everything new. Untouched. Waiting. Margaret mentioned you used to paint, Lucian said from behind her. Before everything. I thought maybe you'd want to again. Amara's vision blurred. She crossed to the table, picked up a brush. Sable bristle. Professional grade. The kind she'd seen in art stores and never let herself want. You built this for me. I had it built. There's a difference. Why? She turned to face him. Tears burned but didn't fall. You don't know me. You don't know if I can even paint anymore. Why do this? Because your mother told me you were talented. Because talent doesn't die just because circumstances beat it down. Because you deserve the chance to find out who you are when you're not just surviving. He stayed in the doorway. Use it. Don't use it. Your choice. But it's here. The tears fell. Amara wiped them away fast, but more came. 6 years. 6 years of nothing, and now this stranger was handing her back pieces of herself she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten they existed. I don't know how to paint anymore, she whispered. Then learn again. What if I'm not good enough? Good enough for who? Me? I don't care if you paint masterpieces or stick figures. This isn't about talent. It's about giving you something that's yours. Amara set down the brush. Her hands shook. I can't pay you back for this. I don't want you to. Everyone wants something. Then I want you to stop surviving and start living. Lucien's voice rose for the first time. I want you to wake up and not flinch at every sound. I want you to eat without looking like someone's going to take the plate away. I want you to paint or not paint or do whatever the hell makes you feel human again. That's what I want. Is that too much? The silence rang. Amara stared at him. At this man who scared entire rooms with his name. Who just yelled at her about living. Who looked at her like she was worth saving. No, she said. It's not too much. Lucian's shoulders dropped. He ran a hand through his hair. Sorry, I don't usually... It's fine. It's not. You've been through hell. I shouldn't be shouting. You weren't shouting at me. You were shouting for me. Amara picked up the brush again. There's a difference. His expression shifted. Something almost like a smile. You sound like your mother. Did you love her? No, but I respected her more than anyone I'd met in 20 years. That was enough. Fair. Amara turned the brush in her fingers. Can I ask you something else? Anything. The men you made disappear last night. What did they do? Lucian went still. Why do you want to know? Because you said this was about keeping me safe. I want to know what I was in danger from. A pause. Then Lucian crossed to the window, looked out at the garden. Your aunt had debts, real ones, to people who traffic in human beings. She was going to sell you to cover those debts. The men I handled last night were the ones facilitating that sale. Ice flooded Amara's veins. She was going to sell me. Within days, I'd been tracking the deal, waiting to see if she'd back out. She didn't. So I moved. He still wasn't looking at her. They're gone now. That particular network is being dismantled as we speak. You're safe. Safe because you killed people. I didn't kill anyone. He turned to face her. I just made sure they can't hurt anyone else. What's the difference? Legally? A lot? Morally? Lucy Chien shrugged. I stopped asking myself those questions a long time ago. Amara should have been horrified, should have run, but all she felt was a sick kind of relief. Her aunt had been planning to sell her, to men who would have broken her in ways that didn't heal, and Lucian had stopped it. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me for doing the bare minimum." The bare minimum would have been calling the cops. You went to war. I made phone calls and moved money. That's not war. He moved toward the door. I'll leave you alone. Explore if you want. Paint if you want. Margaret knows where everything is. I have more calls this afternoon. Lucien. He stopped. When you watched me. For 6 years. What did you see? His hand rested on the doorframe. Someone stronger than she knew. Someone who deserved better than what life gave her. Someone I wanted to help but didn't know how without making things worse. He looked back at her. Someone I'm glad I finally found the courage to save. He left. Amara stood alone in the studio surrounded by art supplies she didn't know how to use anymore. She picked up a canvas, set it on an easel, uncapped a tube of paint, burnt umber, the color of earth and shadows, squeezed some onto a palette. Her hand hovered over the surface. 6 years since she'd done this. 6 years since she'd let herself want something besides survival. The brush touched canvas. A line. Rough. Uncertain. Wrong. She made another. And another. Brown and black and gray. The colors of concrete and rain and exhaustion. No plan. No technique. Just movement. Reaction. The paint went where her hand pushed it and her hand moved without thinking. An hour passed. Maybe 2. The canvas filled. Not with anything beautiful, not with anything recognizable, just texture and darkness and the ghost of something that might have been a shape once. Amara stepped back, looked at what she'd made. It was terrible, objectively terrible. A child could have done better, but it was hers. She started crying again, couldn't stop this time. 6 years of silence and survival broke open and poured out in ugly sobs that shook her whole body. She sank to the floor, back against the wall, and let herself fall apart in a way she hadn't since her mother died. No one came. No one stopped her. The tears ran out eventually and left her hollow, clean. By the time she walked back to the house, it was almost evening. The city lights were starting to glow. Margaret was in the kitchen again. "There's dinner at 7, she said. "Mr. Cross asked if you'd join him." "Where?" "The dining room, West Wing." Amara nodded, went upstairs, changed into clean clothes because the ones she'd been wearing had paint on them now, stared at herself in the mirror and tried to figure out who was looking back. 7 o'clock came. She found the dining room. Lucien was already there, dressed down in jeans and a black shirt. A table set for 2. Candles. Not romantic, just light. "How was the studio?" he asked as she sat. "Overwhelming." Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? "I don't know yet." Amara unfolded her napkin. "I made something terrible." "First attempts usually are." "You don't know that." "I know that nothing worth doing comes easy." He poured wine into her glass. "You showed up. That's what matters." They ate. Conversation came easier this time. Lucien asked about her mother, memories, stories, the little details that build a person. Amara found herself talking. Actually talking about the clinic where Elena worked, about painting together on weekends, about the way her mother hummed off key while cooking. "She sounds like she was happy," Lucien said. She was. Even when things were hard, even when money was tight, she found reasons to smile. Amara picked at her food. "I forgot how to do that." "You'll remember." "How do you know?" "Because you're her daughter. That kind of strength runs in blood." The words settled warm in her chest. Amara looked at him across the table. This man who'd watched her for years, who'd paid $10,000 to free her, who'd built her a studio and asked for nothing. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Why aren't you married?" Lucian's expression went carefully blank. "That's the personal question?" "You're successful, powerful, not terrible looking. Why are you alone?" "Who says I'm alone?" "This house, the way you live. You have staff but no family. No friends that I've seen. You eat dinner with a girl you barely know instead of, I don't know, whatever rich criminals do for fun." A long pause. Lucian set down his fork. "I'm alone because everyone I've gotten close to ends up dead or destroyed. Because my world doesn't allow for weakness and caring about people is the ultimate weakness. Because I learned a long time ago that isolation is safer than connection. That sounds lonely. It is, he met her eyes. But it keeps people alive. Is that why you're keeping me at arm's length? Even now? I'm not. He stopped. Yes, probably. You're safer if you're not tied to me in any way that matters. But you brought me here. You're protecting me. People already know I matter to you. They know you're under my protection. That's different than... He didn't finish. Different than what? Lucienne pushed back from the table, stood, walked to the window. Different than you being someone I care about beyond obligation. And is that what I am? An obligation? He didn't answer immediately. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, the silence stretched tight. No, he said finally. You're not. Amara's pulse kicked. Then what am I? I don't know, and that terrifies me more than any threat I've ever faced. The honesty hit like a physical thing. Amara stood, crossed to where he stood by the window. I scare you. The way I feel about you scares me. He still wasn't looking at her. I've spent 6 years watching you, knowing things about you that you've never told me. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And every rational part of my brain says I should keep my distance. Let you heal. Let you build a life. Stay out of it. But you're not staying out of it. No. Finally, he turned. His eyes found hers. I can't. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Amara should have stepped back, should have put distance between herself and this man who'd just admitted to being obsessed with her. Instead, she moved closer. Why can't you? But 'cause seeing you hurting for 6 years nearly destroyed me. Because finally having you safe in my house makes me feel something I thought I'd buried. Because you look at me like I'm human instead of a monster, and I can't remember the last time someone did that. His voice dropped. Because you're standing 3 feet away from me and every instinct I have is screaming to close that distance, and I know that would be wrong. Why would it be wrong? Because you just escaped hell. Because you're vulnerable. Because I'm the person who pulled you out. And you might think you owe me something you don't. He took a breath. Because you deserve better than getting tangled up with someone like me. Amar's chest felt tight. What if I'm already tangled? Then I'll untangle you, give you space, time, whatever you need to figure out who you are without trauma making the decisions. And if trauma isn't making the decision, if this is me, clear-headed, choosing to stand here? Amara, you said I have choices now. You said everything here is my decision, so let me decide. She closed the remaining distance, close enough to feel his heat, close enough to see his pupils dilate. Tell me what you want. His jaw clenched. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. I want... He stopped. Started again. I want to touch you. I want to know if your skin is as soft as it looks. I want to hear you say my name when you're not asking for something. I want to take every bad memory you have and bury it so deep you forget it existed. His hands fisted at his sides. I want things I have no right to want from you. Amar's breath came fast. Her hand lifted, found his chest. His heart hammered under her palm. What if I gave you the right? She whispered. Lucian's control shattered. His hand came up, cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. The touch was gentle, reverent. Everything his reputation wasn't. You're not thinking clearly, he said. I've never thought more clearly in my life. Tomorrow you'll regret this. Then let me regret it tomorrow. He kissed her. Soft at first. Testing. Like he expected her to pull away. When she didn't, when she pressed closer instead, the kiss deepened. His other hand found her waist, pulled her against him. Amara's fingers curled into his shirt. Her pulse roared. This was insane. This was moving too fast. This was perfect. He pulled back, rested his forehead against hers, both of them breathing hard. We should stop, he said. Should we? Yes, before this goes somewhere you're not ready for. What if I'm ready? You're not. He stepped back, put space between them. You think you are, but you're running on adrenaline and relief and the first safety you've felt in years. That's not the same as being ready. Amar's chest hurt. So what happens now? Now I walk away. Give you time. Let you process everything that's happened. He moved toward the door. And when you've had space to think, really think, if you still want this, we'll talk. And if I change my mind, then I'll accept it and we'll figure out how to move forward as... He stopped. As what? I don't know. But I won't push. That's a promise. He left. Amara stood alone in the dining room, lips still tingling, heart still racing. She touched her mouth, felt the ghost of his kiss. This was crazy. Everything about this was crazy. A week ago, she'd been scrubbing floors in her aunt's bakery. Now she was in a crime lord's house kissing a man who'd watched her for 6 years. She should be terrified, should be running. Instead, she went to bed that night and dreamed of dark eyes and gentle hands and the feeling of finally being seen. 3 days passed. Lucian kept his distance. They saw each other at meals, talked, but he never touched her again, never crossed the line he'd drawn. Amara spent time in the studio. Her paintings were still terrible, but getting less terrible. She started with colors instead of just browns and grays. Margaret brought her books on technique. She studied, practiced, failed, tried again. On the 4th day, a man in an expensive suit arrived. Marcus something, Lucian's lawyer. Miss Vale, he said in Lucian's office where they'd called her, I need you to sign some paperwork. What kind of paperwork? Legal separation from your aunt. Documentation stating the debt never existed. A restraining order preventing her from contacting you. He slid papers across the desk. It's all standard, but it makes everything official. Amara read through it, legal language that basically meant Carmen couldn't touch her ever again. Her hand shook signing. There's one more thing, Marcus said. Mr. Cross wanted me to present you with options for your future. Options? Education, job training, housing if you choose to leave. He's prepared to fund whatever path you want to take. Marcus pulled out another folder. This is a bank account in your name, $50,000. No strings. Use it however you want. Amara's brain stuttered. 50,000? It's yours, separate from anything else. He wanted you to have independence. She looked at Lucien. He sat behind his desk looking uncomfortable. This is too much, she said. It's the bare minimum, he replied. You lost 6 years. I can't give those back, but I can give you a foundation to build from. Why would you do this? Because you deserve it. Because your mother would have wanted it. Because I can. He leaned forward. Take the money, Amara. Build something. Whether you stay here or leave, you should have options. The weight of it crashed over her. Real options. Real freedom. Not just survival, but actual possibility. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. Just use it. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the money, the options, the future stretching out in front of her like an unmapped road. She got up at 2 a.m. and went downstairs. Found Lucien in his office, still awake, staring at computer screens filled with numbers and names. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. Thinking too much. She sat in the chair across from him. Tell me the truth. About my mother. How she really died. His hand stilled on the keyboard. I told you, car accident. You told me what happened, not how, not the details. Amara leaned forward. I've been thinking about what you said, about her making you promise, about the timing. She died 6 months after meeting you. That's not a lot of time to extract promises about protecting daughters. Lucien's expression went carefully blank. What are you asking? Did she know that she was in danger? The silence stretched. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Inside, Amara's heart hammered. Yes, Lucien said finally. She knew. How? Because she was treating people in that clinic who were involved in my world. People who talked. People who mentioned names they shouldn't have mentioned. He closed his laptop. Someone found out she was hearing things. Decided she was a risk. The accident was meant to look random. Ice in Amara's veins. Someone killed her. Yes. Did you know? Before it happened? No, I found out after. Too late to stop it. But in time to make sure the people responsible didn't hurt anyone else. You killed them. I made sure they disappeared. There's a difference. Not really. Amara's voice shook. My mother died because of your world. Because she saved you. Yes. He met her eyes. And I've spent 8 years living with that, knowing she'd be alive if she'd never met me. That's why I watched you, why I waited, why I'm doing everything I can to keep you safe now, because I owe her a debt I can never repay. Amara stood, her legs felt unsteady. I need to think. Amara, no, don't, just give me space. She walked out, went back to her room, sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process. Her mother hadn't died in a random accident. She'd been murdered because she helped Lucian, because his world touched hers and poison spread. And now Amara was in that same world, living in his house, kissing him, falling for him. The thought hit hard. She was falling for him, for a man whose existence had gotten her mother killed, for a criminal who solved problems with violence, for someone who'd been watching her for 6 years in ways that should terrify her. But it didn't terrify her. That was the worst part. She understood why he watched, why he waited, why he moved when he did. It made sense in a twisted way. And the way he looked at her, like she was precious, like she mattered, was the first time in 6 years she'd felt like a person instead of a problem. But her mother was dead because of him. How did you reconcile that? Morning came without answers. Amara dragged herself downstairs, found Margaret in the kitchen. Is he here? She asked. Mr. Cross left early. Business in the city. Margaret poured coffee. He said he'd be back tonight. Did he seem... Amara stopped. Upset? Yes. He paced his office until 4 a.m. Margaret's expression softened. Whatever happened, he's taking it hard. Good. Amara took the coffee, went to the studio, stood in front of a blank canvas. She painted fury, red and black and violent slashes across white. No technique, no plan, just rage and confusion and grief 8 years delayed pouring out through her hands. By noon, the canvas was destroyed, paint everywhere, on her hands, on her clothes, on the floor. She felt better, worse, both. The sun was setting when Lucian's car pulled up. Amara watched from the studio window, saw him get out, saw him look toward the studio. Their eyes met across the garden. He didn't come to her. She didn't go to him. 2 days crawled past. They didn't speak, passed each other in halls without making eye contact. Margaret served meals in silence. The house felt like a tomb. On the 3rd day, someone broke into the estate. Alarms screamed, lights flooded the grounds. Amara jerked awake in her bed to chaos. Footsteps pounded, voices shouted, glass shattered somewhere below. Her door slammed open. Lucien, gun in his hand, blood on his shirt that might not be his. Get up, he said. Now. What's happening? Someone wants you dead. Move! He grabbed her arm, pulled her into the hall. Men in black tactical gear appeared, his security. They formed around them, moved fast. Down the stairs toward the garage. Gunfire echoed from somewhere behind them. They reached the garage. Lucian shoved her into the back of an armored SUV, climbed in after her. The vehicle peeled out before the door fully closed. Drive, Lucian snapped at the driver. Then to Amara. Stay down. What's going on? A rival found out about you, decided to use you to get to me. His jaw clenched. This is exactly what I was afraid of. The SUV careened through city streets. Behind them, 2 more vehicles followed. Security, protection. All because Amara had gotten too close to a man who lived in violence. Where are we going? She asked. Safe house. Across the city. Heavily fortified. Lucian checked his phone. His expression darkened. 3 of my men are down. The attackers got away, but we have footage. Is everyone? 2 injured. 1 critical. Margaret's safe. She was in her quarters. The SUV turned hard. Amara slid across the seat. Lucien caught her, held her steady. His hands shook. This is my fault, she said. No. This is mine. He didn't let go. I brought you into my world. I should have known this would happen. You couldn't have predicted. I should have. This is what I do. I calculate risk and I manage threats and I... His voice cracked. I got you nearly killed because I was selfish. Lucien, I should have given you the money and sent you away. Put you in a different city, different country. Somewhere my enemies couldn't find you, but I wanted—" He stopped. "Wanted what?" "You. Near me, where I could see you, know you were safe. And that want almost got you killed tonight." The SUV pulled into an underground garage. Lucien pulled Amara out, rushed her through concrete corridors, into an elevator, up 20 floors, into a penthouse that looked like a fortress. Security swept the space, declared it clear, left them alone with 3 guards posted outside. Amara stood in the middle of the living room and finally let herself shake. "Someone wants me dead. Multiple someones. Word got out that you matter to me. Now you're leverage." Lucien paced, ran his hands through his hair. "This is why I stay alone. This is why I don't what? Don't care about people?" Amara's voice rose. "Don't let anyone in? Don't live like a human being?" "Yes, exactly, because this is what happens when I do." "So what's your solution? Lock me away forever? Send me across the world and never see me again?" "If that's what keeps you alive, yes." "That's not living. That's just a different kind of prison." They stood 6 feet apart, both breathing hard. The adrenaline was crashing. Amara's legs felt weak. She sank onto the couch. Lucien sat beside her. "I can't lose you. You're not losing me. Someone tried to kill you tonight and failed because you were there. I might not always be there. Then teach me to protect myself." Amara turned to face him. "Stop trying to keep me in a bubble. Stop treating me like I'm fragile. I survived 6 years of hell. I can survive this." "This is different, is it? My aunt was planning to sell me to traffickers. You said so yourself. That world was already coming for me. At least now I have someone fighting back." Lucien's expression was anguished. "You shouldn't have to fight." "But I do. We both know it. So stop trying to protect me from reality and help me face it." He looked at her for a long moment. Then, "If I do this, if I let you stay in my world, there are rules." "What kind of rules?" "You learn to defend yourself. Guns, hand-to-hand, everything. You don't go anywhere without security. You tell me if anything feels wrong. And if things get too dangerous, if I say you need to disappear, you disappear. No arguments." Amara considered. "And in exchange, I stop keeping you at arm's length. I stop pretending this thing between us isn't real. I stop lying to myself about being able to let you go." Her heart hammered. "And if I say yes to all that, then you're mine." The word came out rough, possessive. "And I'm yours. And we figure out how to survive this together." Amar should have been scared, should have run. Instead, she kissed him. Hard. Desperate. 6 days of tension shattering. His arms came around her, pulled her close. She climbed into his lap. His hands found her waist, her hair. His mouth moved to her neck. "Amara," he breathed against her skin. "Don't stop. Please don't stop." He pulled back, looked at her, his pupils blown wide. "We shouldn't. Not like this. Not while you're still running on adrenaline." "I'm not running on adrenaline. I'm running on clarity." She framed his face with her hands. "I almost died tonight. I spent 3 days thinking about my mother and your world and everything that's happened. And you know what I realized?" "What?" "Life is short and brutal, and if I wait for the perfect moment, I'll die waiting. So I'm choosing this. Now, you. Whatever that means." His control shattered for the second time. He kissed her like she was oxygen, like she was the only thing keeping him alive. They fell back on the couch. His weight pressed her down. Her hands found skin under his shirt. He groaned. Then his phone rang. Lucien froze, looked at the screen. "I have to take this." "Now?" "It's about the attack." He sat up, answered. "Talk to me." Amara listened to his side of the conversation. Short sentences, questions, his expression getting darker. He hung up. "What?" she asked. "We have a problem. The people who attacked the estate, they weren't a rival gang." His jaw clenched. "They were hired by your aunt." The world tilted. "What?" "Carmen hired them. Used the 10,000 I gave her as partial payment for a hit. She wanted you dead." Amara couldn't breathe. Her aunt, the woman who'd raised her, however badly, wanted her dead. Why? The word came out broken. Because you're the only witness to 6 years of labor trafficking and fraud. Because I paid you off, and she's terrified you'll press charges. Because she's a monster who sees you as a loose end. Lucian's hands fisted. I should have handled her differently. Should have made sure she couldn't. Where is she now? In custody. My people grabbed her an hour ago. She's being held until we decide what to do with her. We. Amara stood. I decide. She tried to kill me. That's my choice. Lucian's expression went carefully neutral. What do you want? I want to see her, face to face. I want her to know she failed. Amara, you said I have choices. This is my choice. A long pause. Then Lucian nodded. Tomorrow. I'll arrange it. But I'm coming with you. I wouldn't have it any other way. That night they slept in the same bed. Just sleep, both too wrung out for anything else. Lucien held her like she might disappear. Amara pressed her back to his chest and felt safe for the first time since the alarms went off. Tomorrow she'd confront the woman who raised her and tried to kill her. Tomorrow she'd step fully into Lucien's world. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight, wrapped in strong arms, listening to his heartbeat, she let herself believe maybe, just maybe, they'd both survive what came next. Even if survival looked nothing like she'd imagined. Even if it cost everything she thought she knew about herself. Even if the price was stepping into darkness and calling it home. She was done surviving. It was time to fight back. The warehouse sat on the edge of the industrial district where the city gave up pretending to be civilized. Rusted metal. Broken windows. The kind of place where screams got swallowed by machinery noise and nobody called the cops because nobody wanted the cops looking too close at what they were doing. Amara sat in the back of Lucien's SUV and watched the building get closer. Her pulse stayed steady. Hands didn't shake. The fear she'd expected never came. Instead, there was just cold clarity. Her aunt tried to have her killed. Now they were going to have a conversation about that. You don't have to do this, Lucian said beside her. He'd said it 3 times already. Each time she ignored him. The SUV stopped. Security fanned out. Checked the perimeter. Gave the all clear. Lucien got out first, extended his hand to help Amara down. She took it. His grip was warm, solid. Stay close to me, he said. I'm not going anywhere. They walked through a side door. The warehouse interior was mostly empty except for the back corner where someone had set up portable lights. Hard white beams cutting through darkness. And there, zip-tied to a metal chair, was Carmen. She looked smaller than Amara remembered. Older. The harsh light showed every line in her face, every gray root in her badly dyed hair. Her makeup had run. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like she'd been crying. Maybe she had been. Amara didn't care. 3 of Lucien's men stood nearby, armed, watching. One of them, Marcus, the lawyer from before, held a tablet. Everything's documented, Marcus said to Lucien. Recorded, time-stamped, legal. Good. Lucien looked at Carmen. You know why you're here. Carmen's eyes found Amara. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I did for you, you tried to have me killed. Amara's voice came out flat. That's what you did for me. Because you destroyed my life. Cross paid me off and then froze all my accounts. The bakery's been condemned. I lost everything because of you. You lost everything because you're a criminal who trafficked in human beings and committed fraud for 6 years. Lucian's tone could have cut glass. The bakery failed inspection the day after Amara left. Turns out when someone actually looks, your violations are extensive. You sabotaged me. I exposed you. He moved closer. The debt you claimed Amara owed never existed. You pocketed her labor and called it repayment. That's theft. That's exploitation. And the men you were planning to sell her to, they're in federal custody now, singing like canaries about your involvement. Carmen's face went white. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. After we're done. Lucien gestured to Amara. She has questions. You're going to answer them. Amara stepped forward, looked down at the woman who'd controlled her life for 6 years, who'd called her worthless, who'd worked her to exhaustion and called it kindness, who'd planned to sell her like property, and when that failed, hired killers. Did you ever care about me at all? Amara asked. Even a little? Carmen's laugh was ugly. Care about you? You were a meal ticket. Your mother was my sister and I hated her. Perfect Elena, always helping people, always so good and pure. And then she died and stuck me with you. She spat on the concrete. I should have thrown you in the street the day she got buried. Why didn't you? Because the state pays for foster care. Because having a dependent gets you tax breaks. Because stupid little girls work cheap when you convince them they owe you. Carmen's eyes were vicious. You were useful. That's all you ever were. The words should have hurt, should have cut deep. Instead, they just confirmed what Amara had known for years but never let herself believe. She was nothing to Carmen. Never had been. Never would be. When did you start planning to sell me? Amara asked. About a year ago, when you turned 18 and the state money stopped. Carmen shrugged like they were discussing groceries. Victor approached me, said he had clients who'd pay good money for girls like you. Pretty, young, broken enough not to fight. I figured why not? You were just taking up space anyway. Lucy Shen's hand found Amara's shoulder. Squeezed. She didn't look at him. Couldn't take her eyes off Carmen. And when that fell through, when Lucy Yen stopped it, I was pissed. That was $20,000 walking out my door. Then Cross froze my accounts and I realized you were going to talk. Going to tell people what I'd done. I couldn't have that. Carmen lifted her chin. So I found people who work for cash, told them where you'd be. Thought it would look like a robbery gone wrong. You wanted me dead. I wanted you silent. Death was just the easiest way. The cold clarity in Amara's chest crystallized into something harder. She turned to Lucien. What are my options? We turn her over to the feds. She goes to trial for fraud, labor trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder. She'll die in prison. He paused. Or we handle it another way. The way he said it made the meaning clear. Another way meant Carmen disappeared, permanently. No trial, no witnesses, just gone. Amara looked at her aunt, this woman who'd stolen 6 years, who'd tried to steal her life, who sat there with hate in her eyes and zero remorse. I want her to face trial, Amara said. I want her to sit in a cell and know that I'm out here living while she rots. I want her to understand that she lost and I won. Carmen's expression twisted. You think you've won? You're sleeping with a criminal. You're in his world now. You think that ends well? You think he'll protect you forever? She laughed. You're just another investment to him, another asset. The second you stop being useful, he'll throw you away like I did. That's enough. Lucien's voice went cold, dangerous. Marcus, get her out of here, federal building. Let them know we're cooperating fully. Marcus nodded, gestured to the other men. They hauled Carmen to her feet. She fought, screamed, hurled insults that echoed off warehouse walls. They dragged her toward a van parked by the loading dock. Then she stopped struggling, went limp. The men relaxed their grip. Carmen moved fast, ripped free. Her hand went to one guard's belt. Came up with his gun. She spun, aimed directly at Amara. Everything slowed. Lucien moved, shoved Amara sideways, hard. She hit the ground. Her head cracked against concrete. Vision blurred, sound muffled. The gunshot was thunder in the enclosed space. Amara's ears rang. She pushed herself up, saw Lucien on the ground 3 feet away, blood spreading across his white shirt. Too much blood. Way too much. No. The word ripped out of her. No, no, no. Marcus tackled Carmen. The gun skittered across concrete. Men swarmed. Someone was shouting into a radio. Medical. Now. Emergency. Amara crawled to Lucien. Her hands found the wound, high on his chest, left side. Blood pulsed between her fingers. His eyes were open, focused on her face. You're okay, he said. His voice sounded wrong, weak. Shut up. Don't talk. Amara pressed harder. The blood kept coming. Someone help! He's bleeding out! Marcus appeared beside her, ripped his shirt off, pressed it to the wound. Ambulance is 3 minutes out. 3 minutes. Lucien could die in 3 minutes. Amara's vision tunneled. Her medical knowledge was zero. She didn't know what to do, didn't know how to stop this. Look at me. Lucien's hand found hers, squeezed weakly. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're... Her voice broke. You took a bullet for me. Of course I did. He tried to smile. Failed. Told you. You're mine to protect. You're not allowed to die. You hear me? You don't get to save me and then die. Not planning on it. His eyes started to close. No, stay awake! Amara grabbed his face. Lucien, stay with me, please. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Marcus kept pressure on the wound. Another man appeared with a first aid kit, started cutting Lucien's shirt away. The damage looked worse exposed. The bullet had gone in clean, but who knew what it hid inside? The ambulance screamed into the warehouse. Paramedics swarmed, pushed Amara aside, got Lucien on a stretcher, started IVs, rattled off medical terms she didn't understand. They moved fast, professional, loaded him into the ambulance. I'm coming with him, Amara said. Family only. I'm his wife. The lie came out automatic. I'm coming. The paramedic looked at her blood-covered hands, her desperate face, nodded. Get in. The ride to the hospital was a nightmare. Beeping machines, paramedics working, Lucien's face getting paler. Amara sat pressed against the wall, trying to stay out of the way while her world collapsed. This was her fault. She'd wanted to confront Carmen, had to prove she wasn't afraid. And now Lucien was dying because he'd stepped between her and a bullet. The ambulance hit a bump. Lucien's eyes opened, found hers. Don't blame yourself, he said. How did you? I know you. His hand moved. She grabbed it. This isn't your fault. You wouldn't be here if not for me. I'd be dead 8 years ago if not for your mother. This evens the score. This isn't about scores. The ambulance lurched to a stop. Doors flew open. They pulled Lucien out, rushed him through emergency entrance. A doctor appeared, asked questions. Amara answered what she could. Name, age, medical history she didn't actually know, but guessed at. Are you family? The doctor asked. I'm his wife. The lie again? Easier this time. We're taking him to surgery. The bullet's still inside, could be near his lung. We won't know until we open him up. The doctor's expression was professionally sympathetic. It'll be a few hours. There's a waiting room on the 3rd floor. They wheeled Lucien away. Amara stood in the emergency room hallway, covered in his blood, and tried to remember how to breathe. Marcus appeared. I'll stay with you. What about Carmen? In federal custody. They took her from the scene. His jaw clenched. She'll never see daylight again. Good. Amara should have felt something about that. Relief, satisfaction, anything. Instead, there was just numbness and the image of Lucien's blood on her hands. The waiting room was sterile. White walls. Uncomfortable chairs. A TV playing news nobody watched. Amara sat, stared at nothing. Time moved wrong. Too slow and too fast simultaneously. Marcus made calls, coordinated security, contacted people who needed to know. Amara heard his voice like it was underwater. None of it felt real. 2 hours passed. 3. A nurse came out. Are you here for Lucien Cross? Amara stood so fast she nearly fell. Yes, is he? He's out of surgery, stable. The bullet nicked his lung, but the surgeon was able to repair the damage. He lost a lot of blood, but he's young and strong. Barring complications, he should recover fully. The relief hit so hard Amara's knees buckled. Marcus caught her. Can I see him? He's in recovery. Once he's moved to a room, yes. Probably another hour. The nurse left. Amara sank back into the chair and finally let herself cry. Ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Marcus didn't comment, just handed her tissues and made more calls. When they finally let her into Lucien's room, he was awake, pale, wires and tubes everywhere, but alive. His eyes tracked her as she entered. Hey, he said. His voice was rough. Hey yourself. Amara crossed to the bed, took his hand carefully. How do you feel? Like I got shot. He tried to smile. Doctor says I'll live. Good, because I was planning to kill you myself if you died. That's not how that works. I don't care. She sat in the chair beside the bed, didn't let go of his hand. You scared me. Sorry. Don't apologize, just don't do it again. They sat in silence. Machines beeped. Outside the room, the hospital moved. Inside, everything was still. I meant what I said in the ambulance, Lucien said finally. This isn't your fault. You took a bullet meant for me. How is that not my fault? Because Carmen pulled the trigger. Because she's the one who chose violence. You didn't make her do anything. His thumb brushed her knuckles. And I'd do it again. Every time. Without hesitation. That's not comforting. It's the truth. Amara looked at their joined hands. His scarred and strong, hers still shaking. I told the paramedics I was your wife. I heard. I didn't know what else to say. They wouldn't let me ride along otherwise. It's fine. Is it? She looked up, met his eyes. Because it felt right, saying it. And that terrifies me. Lucien's expression softened. Why does it terrify you? Because we barely know each other, because this is happening too fast, because my aunt was right. I'm in your world now, and I don't know if I can survive it. The words spilled out. Someone tried to kill me. You got shot protecting me. This is insane. We're insane. Maybe, he squeezed her hand, but I'm not letting you go. Even if staying gets me killed? Leaving doesn't guarantee safety. Carmen proved that. My enemies already know about you. Distance won't change that now. His voice was steady. So the question isn't whether you're in danger. It's whether you face it alone or with me. Amara wanted to argue, wanted to find the flaw in his logic, but exhaustion crashed over her. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Her head hurt from hitting concrete. Her hand throbbed where stitches had ripped open during the chaos. I'm tired, she whispered. Then sleep. I'm not going anywhere. The chair's not comfortable. So climb up here. She looked at the hospital bed, the wires, the IV. I'll hurt you. You won't. Come here. Amara stood, carefully climbed onto the bed, curled against Lucien's right side, the side without the gunshot wound. His arm came around her. She pressed her face to his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. She fell asleep like that, and dreamed of warehouses and gunshots and blood that wouldn't stop spreading. When she woke, sunlight streamed through the hospital window. Lucien was still asleep, his face relaxed in a way she'd never seen, vulnerable, young, almost peaceful. A knock on the door made her look up. A woman entered, mid-50s, expensive clothes, sharp eyes that took in everything. Amara in the bed, Lucien sleeping, their positions. Who are you? The woman asked. Amara sat up carefully. I'm a friend. Who are you? Catherine Cross. Lucien's mother. Ice flooded Amara's veins. His mother. Lucien had never mentioned family. She'd assumed he had none. I didn't know he had family, Amara said. He doesn't tell people. Safer that way. Catherine moved closer. Her gaze was assessing. You're the girl from the bakery. How did you... I make it my business to know what my son is involved in. She sat in the visitor's chair. Tell me what happened. Amara explained the confrontation with Carmen, the gun, Lucien taking the bullet. Catherine listened without interrupting. Her expression stayed neutral. So you're the reason he got shot, Catherine said when Amara finished. I didn't ask him to, but he did. Because that's who he is. He sees someone worth saving, and he doesn't consider the cost. Catherine's voice was cold. My son has survived 36 years in a world that kills men like him. He's done it by being smart, careful, calculated. Until you. I never asked for any of this. No, but you're here anyway, living in his house, sleeping in his bed, becoming a weakness people can exploit. Catherine leaned forward. Do you love him? The question landed like a punch. Amara's mouth opened, closed. Did she love him? She'd known him 2 weeks. That wasn't enough time to love someone. Except she'd kissed him, had chosen to stay in his world, had lied and called herself his wife without hesitation. I don't know, she said honestly. Then figure it out. Because if you don't love him, leave. Walk away before you get him killed. Catherine's eyes were hard. But if you do love him, understand what that means. It means learning to live with violence. It means watching him leave for jobs he might not come back from. It means his enemies becoming your enemies. It means a life most people can't imagine, let alone survive. You survived it. Barely, and it cost me everything. Catherine stood. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. My son doesn't do anything halfway. If he's chosen you, he'll protect you with everything he has. But protection isn't the same as safety, and loving him won't keep you alive. She left. Amara sat frozen. Catherine's words echoed. Figure it out. Do you love him? Leave or understand what you're choosing? Don't listen to her, Lucian said. His eyes were open. She means well, but she's wrong. How much did you hear? Enough. He shifted, winced. My mother lived through 20 years of my father's war. It broke her. She thinks my world will break you too. Will it? I don't know. His honesty was brutal. But I'm not my father, and you're not my mother. What we have doesn't have to look like what they had. What do we have? I don't know that either, but I know I want to find out, if you'll let me. Amara looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd watched her for 6 years, who'd paid her freedom, who'd built her a studio, who'd taken a bullet meant for her without hesitation, who terrified an entire city but looked at her like she was precious. Your mother's right about one thing, she said. I need to figure out what I feel. Okay. And I need space to do that. Real space. Not just sleeping in different rooms while living in your house. Lucian's expression shuddered. You're leaving. I'm taking time. There's a difference. Amara took his hand. You gave me $50,000, access to options. I need to use them. Figure out who I am when I'm not running from Carmen or hiding behind you. Become someone who can actually stand beside you instead of just being protected by you. How long? I don't know. A month? Maybe more. However long it takes. And if you decide you don't want this, don't want me, then I'll tell you. But I need to make that choice as a whole person, not as someone still shattered from everything that happened. Silence. Lucian's jaw worked. She could see him fighting the urge to argue, to convince her to stay, to promise he'd give her space in his house. Okay, he said finally, take the time. Figure it out. I'll be here when you're ready. Just like that? Just like that. He pulled her down, kissed her forehead. I waited 6 years. I can wait a few more weeks. Relief and regret twisted together in Amara's chest. This was right. She knew it was right, but it hurt anyway. 3 days later, Lucien was released from the hospital. He went back to his estate. Amara didn't go with him. Instead, she took the money he'd given her and found a small apartment across the city. 1 bedroom, cheap but clean. Her own space for the first time in her life. Margaret helped her move, brought boxes of the clothes from Lucy Yan's house, set up the kitchen, gave her a phone number to call if she needed anything. He's miserable, Margaret said before leaving. I know, but he's not stopping you. No? Amara looked around the empty apartment. He's not. That's how you know it's real. He's letting you go because he wants you to choose him freely. Margaret squeezed her shoulder. Don't take too long. Pride only stretches so far. The first week alone was harder than Amara expected. She'd gotten used to the estate, to security, to knowing Lucien was down the hall. The apartment felt exposed. Every noise made her jump. She barely slept. But slowly, she adjusted, found a rhythm, started painting again, not in Lucien's studio, but in her tiny living room with supplies she bought herself. The work was still rough, still angry, but it was hers. She enrolled in online classes, art theory, business, things she'd never had time to learn. The studying helped, gave her brain something to focus on besides the hollow ache of missing someone she barely knew. 2 weeks in, Marcus called. We need to talk. They met at a coffee shop. Marcus looked grim, slid a folder across the table. This is everything we have on your mother's death. Amara's hand shook, opening it. Police reports, autopsy, witness statements, all confirming what Lucien had told her. Elena Vale died in a car accident. No surviving witnesses. Investigation closed. Except there was a second section. Notes in handwriting she didn't recognize. Names, dates, connections between her mother's clinic and Lucien's world. And at the bottom, a single sentence underlined 3 times. Elena Vale was murdered on orders from Vincent Calabrese. Who's Vincent Calabrese? Amara asked. Marcus's expression went dark. Was. He's dead. Lucien killed him 8 years ago. Because he ordered my mother's death. Yes. Amara flipped through more pages. Found photographs. Crime scene photos of a man shot multiple times. Vincent Calabrese. Dead in his own home. The report listed it as gang violence, unsolved. Lucian never told me he killed the man responsible, she said. He doesn't like talking about it. That was the night he decided to change how he operated. Stop being reactive. Start being strategic. Your mother's death broke something in him, fixed something else. Marcus closed the folder. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know the whole truth. Lucian didn't just promise to protect you. He avenged your mother. Spent years dismantling the entire network that ordered her death. That's who he is. The information sat heavy. Amara had thought she understood, thought she knew what Lucien was. But this added layers she hadn't considered. He'd killed for her mother, had rebuilt himself around a promise to a dead woman. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Because he won't. Because you're trying to figure out if you can love him. I think knowing what he's already sacrificed helps with that decision. Marcus left. Amara sat alone with the folder and tried to process. Her mother had saved Lucian. Lucian had avenged her mother, had protected Amara for 6 years, had taken a bullet for her, had let her leave when every instinct probably screamed to make her stay. That wasn't obsession, that was devotion, the kind that didn't expect anything back. She went home, painted until her hands cramped, the canvas filled with dark colors and sharp lines, a figure standing between chaos and light, protecting, guarding, sacrificing. She called Lucien. He answered on the first ring. Are you okay? I saw the file on my mother. Silence. Then, Marcus shouldn't have shown you that. I'm glad he did. Amara, you killed Vincent Calabrese. Yes. Did it help? Did it fix anything? A long pause. No. It just meant he couldn't hurt anyone else the way he hurt her. Do you regret it? No. His honesty cut through everything else. No justification, no explanation, just the truth. I'm coming back, Amara said. You don't have to. I know, but I want to. I've had space. I figured some things out, and I need to see you. When? Tomorrow, if that's okay. It's more than okay. His voice roughened. I'll send a car. I'll drive myself. I bought a car, used, nothing fancy, but it's mine. She could hear his smile through the phone. You bought a car. And enrolled in classes, and painted 17 terrible canvases. I've been busy. I'm proud of you. The words hit different than she expected. Warm, real. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here. She hung up, sat in her tiny apartment and felt her heart hammering. Tomorrow. She'd see him tomorrow. And she'd tell him the truth she'd spent 3 weeks figuring out. She loved him. Completely. Terrifyingly. In a way that probably wasn't smart but felt inevitable. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. She fell asleep that night planning what to say. How to explain. How to make him understand that leaving had been about finding herself so she could give herself freely. Her phone woke her at 3 a.m. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Amara Vale? A woman's voice, professional, cold. Yes. Who is this? FBI. I'm calling to inform you that Lucian Cross was arrested 2 hours ago. He's being charged with multiple counts of racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. The world stopped. What? If you have information about Mr. Cross's activities, we'd like to speak with you. Otherwise, I'd suggest finding yourself a lawyer. Anyone associated with him is under investigation. The line went dead. Amara stared at her phone. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. Lucian was careful, strategic. How could the FBI... Her apartment door crashed open. Men in tactical gear swarmed inside, guns drawn. Someone yelling about a warrant. Hands grabbed her, pulled her off the couch, pushed her against the wall. Amara Vale, you're under arrest as a material witness in the RICO case against Lucian Cross. You have the right to remain silent. The words blurred. Handcuffs bit into her wrists. They dragged her out, threw her in a van. The city passed in harsh streetlight flashes. Everything Lucien had warned about, everything his mother had said, it was all happening. And Amara had no idea if the man she loved would survive it, or if she would either. The interrogation room was exactly what Amara expected from watching too many crime shows. Gray walls, metal table bolted to the floor, Mirror that was obviously one-way glass, fluorescent lights that made her skin look corpse pale. She'd been sitting here for 6 hours, no water, no food, no lawyer, just handcuffs digging into her wrists, and 2 FBI agents taking turns asking the same questions in different ways. Tell us about your relationship with Lucian Cross. I already told you. I met him 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks and you're living in an apartment he's paying for. I'm paying for it. With money I earned. The female agent, Sanders, her badge said, smiled. It wasn't friendly. $50,000 appeared in your account the day you left your aunt's bakery. That's not earned money. That's payment. For what? You tell us. Amara's head throbbed. She hadn't slept, hadn't been allowed to call anyone. The arrest had happened so fast she was still wearing pajamas, thin cotton pants and a tank top that did nothing against the AC they'd cranked too uncomfortable. I want a lawyer, she said for the 8th time. You're not under arrest. You're a material witness. Different rules. The male agent, Torres, leaned back in his chair. But we can make this easy. Tell us what Cross is involved in, who he works with, where he keeps his records. Help us, and we'll help you. I don't know anything. You lived in his house. As a guest. I never saw any records, never met his associates. Amara met Torres's eyes. I don't know anything about his business. But you know he's a criminal. I know what people say. That's different than knowing facts. Sanders slapped a folder on the table, opened it. Crime scene photos. Bodies. Blood. Violence frozen in glossy 8x10 prints. This is what your boyfriend does. These are people he's killed or ordered killed. We have witnesses, testimony, financial records linking him to everything from drug trafficking to murder for hire. Amara looked at the photos, felt bile rise, looked away. If you have all that, why do you need me? Because you're leverage, Torres said it casually, like it wasn't the most terrifying thing Amara had heard all night. Cross cares about you. That makes you useful. Ice flooded her veins. I'm not helping you use me against him. You don't have a choice. Everyone has choices. Not when they're facing accessory charges. Sanders pulled out more papers. You accepted money from a known criminal enterprise. You failed to report knowledge of crimes. That makes you complicit. You could be looking at 10 years. For accepting a gift? For money laundering? For conspiracy? Sanders' smile widened. Unless you cooperate. Then those charges disappear. You walk away clean. Maybe even get witness protection. A new life far from all this. Amara's hands shook. She'd been awake 30 hours. Her brain felt like static. She couldn't think through the fear. I need to use the bathroom. After you answer our questions. That's illegal. Sue us. Torres stood. I'll give you an hour to think about it. Consider what 10 years in federal prison looks like. Consider whether protecting a man you barely know is worth your life. They left. The door locked behind them. Amara sat alone in the too-cold room and tried not to panic. This was a pressure tactic. Had to be. They couldn't actually charge her with anything. She hadn't done anything. Except she had. She'd accepted money, had known Lucian was a criminal, had chosen to stay in his world anyway. That was enough. In their eyes, that made her guilty. An hour passed. Maybe more. Time moved wrong. Amara's bladder screamed. Her wrists bled where the cuffs had rubbed skin raw. She was shaking from cold or fear or exhaustion, probably all three. The door opened. But it wasn't Sanders or Torres. It was a man in an expensive suit, silver hair, sharp eyes. He moved like someone used to being obeyed. Miss Vale, I'm Robert Chen. I'm your attorney. I didn't call an attorney. Mr. Cross retained me on your behalf. He has certain contingencies in place for situations like this. Chen sat across from her, pulled out his phone, started recording. Before we begin, are you injured? Have you been mistreated? I've been here 8 hours without water or bathroom access. Chen's expression went cold. That's illegal detention. We're leaving. Now. They said I'm a material witness, and I'm saying you're invoking your Fifth Amendment rights, and we're terminating this interview. He stood, went to the door, pounded on it. My client is leaving. Open this door or I'll have a federal judge on the phone in 30 seconds. The door opened. Sanders looked furious. She hasn't finished. She's finished. She's invoking her Fifth Amendment rights. Any further questions go through me. Chen's voice could cut glass. And I'll be filing a complaint about the conditions of her detention. 8 hours without water or bathroom access is illegal coercion. We were conducting a legitimate interview, without counsel present, with a civilian who's not under arrest. That's a violation. Chen pulled out his phone. Should I call the judge now, or are you going to remove those handcuffs and let us leave? Sanders looked at Torres. Some silent communication passed between them. Torres nodded. Sanders unlocked Amara's handcuffs. This isn't over, Sanders said. Yes, it is. My client has nothing more to say to you. Chen gestured to Amara. Come with me. Amara stood on shaking legs, followed Chen out of the interrogation room, through a maze of hallways, past agents who stared, out into the pre-dawn air that felt like freedom. A car waited at the curb. Black. Expensive. Chen opened the door. Get in. I'll explain on the way. Amara climbed inside. The interior smelled like leather. The seat was warm. Chen got in beside her. The car pulled away from the federal building. Where are we going? Amara asked. Somewhere safe. Then we talk. Chen handed her a bottle of water. Drink. You're dehydrated. She drank. The water was cold. Perfect. She drained half the bottle before coming up for air. What's happening? Where's Lucien? Mr. Cross was arrested on federal racketeering charges. He's being held without bail pending arraignment. They're claiming flight risk. When's arraignment? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Chen pulled out a tablet, started typing. They're moving fast, trying to overwhelm us with charges before we can mount a proper defense. Will it work? Not if I can help it. He looked up. But I need you to tell me everything. Every interaction you had with the FBI, what they asked, what you said, word for word. Amara recounted the interrogation. Chen listened without interrupting. His expression stayed neutral, but she saw his jaw tighten at certain points. They're building a case around you, he said when she finished, using your relationship with Lucien as evidence of a larger conspiracy. It's thin, but they're desperate. Desperate for what? A conviction. They've been trying to bring Lucien down for years. Never had enough evidence. Now they think they do. Chen's fingers flew across the tablet. What I'm about to tell you stays between us. Attorney-client privilege. Understand? Yes. Lucien knew this was coming. He's been preparing for months, moving money, securing assets, protecting people who work for him. The FBI thinks they've caught him off guard, but he's been ready. Chen met her eyes. He has a plan, but it requires your cooperation. What kind of cooperation? The kind that's dangerous. The kind that could get you killed if it goes wrong. Chen didn't soften it. Lucien wants you to testify against him. Amar's brain stuttered. What? At his trial. He wants you on the stand telling the FBI everything you know, which is nothing. But they don't know that. They think you're his girlfriend, his weak point. If you testify that you never saw criminal activity, never heard discussions about illegal business, that undermines their entire case. But I'll be under oath, and you'll be telling the truth. You genuinely don't know anything about his operations. He made sure of that, kept you separate, protected. Chen leaned forward. But the FBI will come at you hard. They'll try to break you, make you look like you're lying to protect him. It'll be brutal. And if I do this, if I testify, it could be the thing that gets him acquitted, or it could make things worse if they don't believe you. Chen's expression was grave. Either way, you'll be painting a target on yourself. Every criminal who wants to hurt Lucien will see you as the person who tried to save him. That makes you valuable, dangerous, worth killing. Amara's hand shook. She set down the water bottle before she dropped it. What does Lucien want me to do? He wants you to run, take the money, disappear. Let him handle this alone. Chen pulled out an envelope. These are wire instructions. Offshore account, $200,000. Enough to start over anywhere in the world. He's also arranged a new identity if you want it. New name, new papers. You can be gone before the sun comes up. The envelope sat between them. Heavy. Final. Amara looked at it and felt her heart crack open. Lucien was giving her an out. Again. Even from a federal holding cell facing life in prison, he was trying to protect her. And if I stay? She asked. Then you testify, you fight, you risk everything. Chen's voice softened. He doesn't want you to stay. He's terrified of what might happen to you, but he knows you well enough to give you the choice anyway. Amara picked up the envelope, felt its weight. Inside was freedom, safety, a life without violence or fear or loving a man who lived in darkness. She set it down unopened. I'm testifying. Chen's expression didn't change. You're sure? Yes. Even knowing the risks? Especially knowing the risks. Amara met his eyes. Lucien's been protecting me since before I knew he existed. He took a bullet for me, let me leave when he wanted me to stay, gave me choices when he could have demanded loyalty. I'm not running while he's in a cell facing life. He'll be furious. Good. He can be furious at me instead of whatever they're doing to him in there. She grabbed the water bottle, drank more. What do I need to do? Chen studied her, then nodded. First, we prep. I need to know every detail of your relationship with Lucien, every conversation, every interaction. We build your testimony so it's airtight, no contradictions, no gaps they can exploit. How long do we have? Trial starts in 2 weeks. They're fast-tracking it. Unprecedented, but the judge allowed it. He pulled up a calendar on his tablet. We'll work every day, morning and night. By the time you take that stand, you'll be ready for anything they throw at you. The car pulled up to a building Amara didn't recognize. High-rise, secure entrance. Chen led her inside, through a lobby, up to the 20th floor, into an apartment that looked like a hotel suite. You'll stay here until the trial, he said. Security's outside. Don't leave without them. Don't call anyone. No social media, no contact with the outside world. The FBI will be watching everything. Can I see Lucy again? No, that would compromise the testimony. You need to maintain distance. Chen moved toward the door. Get some sleep. I'll be back at 8 a.m. and we'll start prep. He left. Amara stood alone in the too-quiet apartment. Exhaustion pulled at her, but her mind was racing. Lucien was in a cell. She was locked in a safe house. In 2 weeks, she'd be on a witness stand with the FBI trying to destroy her credibility and criminals planning her death. This was insane. She should take the money and run. Instead, she took a shower, let hot water wash away the interrogation room and fear, changed into clothes someone had left in the bedroom. Her size, her style. Lucien's people had thought of everything. She tried to sleep, failed. Ended up on the couch staring at the city lights until her eyes burned and dawn crept across the skyline. Chen arrived at 8 sharp. Brought coffee and bagels and a thick file folder. They worked all day. He asked questions. She answered. He poked holes. She clarified. By evening, her throat hurt from talking and her head pounded from remembering. Good, Chen said when they finally stopped. You're a natural, calm, clear, believable. I'm terrified. That'll actually help. Juries trust scared witnesses more than confident ones. He packed up his materials. Tomorrow we'll go over cross-examination tactics. Sleep if you can. You'll need it. Days blurred together. Prep sessions. Mock cross-examinations. Chen playing the role of prosecutor and tearing into her testimony. Finding weaknesses. Shoring them up. By the end of the first week, Amara could recite her entire timeline with Lucien from memory. Every detail. Every moment. She didn't see him. Wasn't allowed. But Chen brought updates. Lucien was holding up. Refusing to take a plea deal. Insisting on going to trial even though the evidence against him was substantial. He was gambling everything on this. On her. The night before trial started, Amara couldn't sleep. She paced the apartment, stared out windows, tried to paint with the supplies someone had brought, but her hands shook too badly. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? It's me. Lucien's voice. Rough, tired, real. How are you calling me? Doesn't matter. I have 3 minutes before they notice. He paused. Chen told me you're testifying. Yes. You shouldn't. You should take the money and run. We've had this conversation. And you're still not listening. His voice hardened. This isn't a game, Amara. The people who want me dead will come for you. Testifying makes you a target. I'm already a target. Your mother made that clear. Amara sat on the couch, pressed the phone to her ear like she could get closer to him. I'm not running. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. A sound that might have been a laugh. Chen says you're ready. Says you'll do fine on the stand. I'm terrified. Good. That means you're taking it seriously. He paused. I need you to promise me something. What? If this goes wrong, if they come for you, you run. You take the money and you disappear and you don't look back. Promise me. Lucien, promise me. His voice cracked. I can handle prison. I can handle whatever they throw at me, but I can't handle you dying because of me. Please. Amara's eyes burned. I promise. Liar. But his tone softened. Thank you. For staying, for fighting, for being braver than anyone has a right to ask. Thank you for giving me a reason to fight. I have to go. They'll notice soon. He hesitated. I love you. In case I don't get to say it later. The line went dead. Amara sat in the dark apartment and let tears fall. He loved her, had said it like a confession, like something he'd been holding back and couldn't contain anymore. She loved him too, had known for weeks, but hearing him say it made it real in a way that terrified and thrilled her simultaneously. Morning came too fast. Chen arrived at 7, brought a suit for her to wear, navy blue, professional. The kind of thing that said reliable witness instead of criminal's girlfriend. Ready? He asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The courthouse was a zoo. News vans, reporters, protesters with signs about crime and justice, security everywhere. Chen led Amara through a side entrance, up to a witness room, put her inside with 2 guards. Stay here until you're called, he said. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at your phone. Just wait. He left. Amara sat in another uncomfortable chair in another too-cold room and tried to remember everything they'd practiced. Stay calm. Answer questions directly. Don't volunteer information. Tell the truth. Hours passed. Voices echoed from the courtroom. She couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear. Battle. War. The opening statements must be brutal. Finally, a bailiff appeared. Amara Vale, you're up. Her legs shook standing. She followed the bailiff through corridors, through a door, into the courtroom. It was packed, jury box filled, gallery, standing room only, reporters with sketch pads. And there, at the defense table, was Lucien. He looked thinner, harder. The orange jumpsuit made him look like a stranger. But his eyes found hers immediately, and something passed between them. Recognition, support, love. Amara walked to the witness stand, got sworn in, sat. The prosecutor, a woman named Garrett with sharp features and sharper eyes, approached. State your name for the record. Amara Vale. And how do you know the defendant? Here we go. He helped me leave an abusive situation 3 weeks ago. Helped you how? He paid my aunt to release me from a fraudulent debt and gave me a place to stay while I figured out my next steps. Garrett smiled. He paid your aunt. How much? $10,000. That's a lot of money for a stranger. He knew my mother. She'd helped him years ago. He was repaying that debt. Your mother, Elena Vale, died 8 years ago in a car accident, correct? Yes. And you expect this jury to believe that Lucien Cross, a known criminal, paid $10,000 out of gratitude to a dead woman? Objection. Chen stood. Argumentative. Sustained. The judge looked at Garrett. Rephrase. Garrett didn't miss a beat. Miss Vale, did Mr. Cross ever discuss his business with you? No. Never? In 3 weeks of living in his house? I lived in the guest wing. We didn't spend much time together. But you were intimate, weren't you? Amara's pulse kicked. We kissed. Once. Just once? Garrett's tone made it clear she didn't believe that. Yes. Miss Vale, we have testimony from household staff that you shared a bed with the defendant on multiple occasions. That's not... Amara caught herself. Remembered prep. After he was shot protecting me from my aunt's hired killers, I stayed with him in the hospital, and one night at his estate after I had a nightmare. We shared a bed, but nothing sexual happened. How convenient. Garrett moved closer. So you're asking this jury to believe you had no relationship with the defendant beyond gratitude? I'm telling you what happened. What happened is you accepted $50,000 from a criminal enterprise. You lived in his house. You kissed him. And now you're on this stand lying to protect him. Objection! Chen was on his feet. Counsel is testifying. Sustained. Miss Garrett, ask questions. Don't make statements. Garrett's eyes glittered. She knew she was getting to Amara. Miss Vale, did you know the defendant was involved in criminal activity? I knew his reputation. That's not what I asked. Did you know he was actively engaged in racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder? No. You never saw evidence of these crimes? No. Never heard phone calls, saw documents, met associates involved in illegal activity? No. He kept that separate from me. How thoughtful of him. Garrett picked up a paper. Miss Vale, 3 weeks ago, someone broke into Lucien Cross's estate. Armed men. Looking for you. Why would criminals target you if you weren't involved in the defendant's activities? Amar's throat felt dry. My aunt hired them. She wanted me dead because I knew about her fraud. And how did the defendant respond to this attack? He protected me by having 3 men hospitalized and 5 more disappear. Garrett let that sit. That's not protection, Miss Vale. That's retaliation. That's violence. And you benefited from it. I didn't ask him to hurt anyone, but you didn't stop him either. You accepted his protection, accepted his money, accepted everything he offered while claiming ignorance about where it came from. Garrett moved in. You're either the most naive 20-year-old in the world or you're lying to this court. Which is it? Amara's hands fisted. Stay calm. Don't react. I'm telling the truth. The truth? Garrett laughed. The truth is you're in love with a criminal and you'll say anything to protect him. Isn't that right? Objection! Chen's voice cracked across the courtroom. Harassing the witness. Withdrawn. Garrett stepped back. No further questions. Amara's legs shook walking back to the witness room. She'd held up, hadn't broken, but Garrett had landed hits, made her look naive at best, complicit at worst. Chen found her 20 minutes later. You did good. She made me look like an idiot. She tried. The jury saw you stay calm, stay consistent. That matters more than her implications. He sat beside her. It's not over. Closing arguments are tomorrow. Then we wait for the verdict. How's Lucy Yen? Holding up. Proud of you. Chen's expression softened. He asked me to give you this. He handed her a note. Folded paper. Amara opened it with shaking hands. You were perfect. No matter what happens, thank you. L. She folded it carefully, tucked it in her pocket. What happens if he's convicted? Life in prison? No parole. Chen didn't sugarcoat it. But we're not there yet. The prosecution's case has holes. We exploited them. It could go either way. That night back at the safe house, Amara couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Just paced and waited. Tomorrow would be closing arguments. Then the jury would deliberate. Then everything would either end in freedom or life imprisonment. She pulled out a canvas, started painting, dark colors, violent strokes, a courtroom, a man in orange, a woman on a stand. The space between them filled with everything they couldn't say. Dawn came. Chen arrived. They went back to the courthouse. Amara sat in the gallery this time, watched Chen deliver a closing argument that methodically destroyed the prosecution's case, watched Garrett fight back with passion and righteous fury. The jury went to deliberate at noon, and then there was nothing to do but wait. Hours crawled by. Amara sat in the courthouse cafeteria drinking bad coffee. Chen made phone calls. Security rotated shifts. The sun moved across the sky. At 6 p.m., the bailiff appeared. Jury's back. Too fast. Chen's expression went tight. That's not good. Fast verdicts usually mean guilty, Amara finished. Her stomach dropped. They decided he's guilty. They went back to the courtroom. Lucien was brought in. His eyes found Amara immediately. She tried to smile, failed. He looked calm, resigned. The jury filed in. 12 faces, none of them looking at Lucien. That was bad. Everyone knew that was bad. The judge called for the verdict. The foreman stood. On the count of racketeering, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of money laundering, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom exploded. Reporters rushed for exits. The gallery erupted. The judge banged her gavel demanding order. Amara couldn't breathe. Guilty. On all counts. Lucien was going to prison for life. She watched them take him away. watched him look back at her one last time, saw his lips move. Couldn't hear the words over the chaos, but she read them. Run. Then he was gone. Chen grabbed her arm. We need to leave. Now. Why? Because the people who wanted Lucian convicted are about to come for everyone connected to him. You're first on that list. He pulled her toward a side exit. Car's waiting. We're getting you out of the city. I'm not running. You promised him you would if things went wrong. They went wrong. Time to keep that promise. They burst out of the courthouse into chaos. News vans, shouting reporters. And there, across the street, a black SUV with tinted windows. Men getting out, moving with purpose. Not cops. Not FBI. Something worse. Go. Chen shoved Amara toward their car. Get in and don't stop. She ran. Behind her, gunfire erupted. People screamed. Chen went down. Amara looked back, saw blood, saw Chen not moving. No! She started back. Strong hands grabbed her, threw her in the car. The door slammed. The vehicle peeled out. Amara pressed against the window, watched the courthouse disappear, Chen's body on the pavement. The men in black converging, everything falling apart. The driver spoke without turning. Mr. Cross has instructions for you. You're going to a safe location. You'll stay there until we determine next steps. Who are you? Someone who works for Mr. Cross. That's all you need to know. The car turned hard. Those men at the courthouse? They work for the Bratva, Russian mob. They've been waiting for Mr. Cross to be out of the way. Now they're cleaning house. Anyone connected to him is a target. How many people? Everyone? His whole organization. They're hitting us simultaneously across the city. The driver's jaw clenched. We're losing, badly. The car raced through streets. Sirens wailed. Smoke rose from buildings in the distance. The city was at war and Amara was in the center of it. They pulled into an underground garage, up an elevator, into a penthouse that looked like a fortress. Armed men everywhere. Computer screens showing feeds from across the city, all of them displaying violence, fire, death. A woman appeared, 40s, hard eyes, shoulder holster visible under her jacket. Amara Vale? Yes. I'm Sarah, head of Mr. Cross's security detail. She gestured to the screens. This is what happens when the king falls. Everyone fights for the throne. Right now, we're just trying to keep you alive long enough to figure out an exit strategy. An exit to where? Anywhere but here. Sarah pulled up a map. We have safe houses in 6 countries. Mr. Cross wants you in Switzerland, neutral, safe, far from all this. I'm not leaving. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Amara looked at the screens, at the burning city, at everything falling apart. What would it take to stop this? Sarah's expression was incredulous. Stop this? The Bratva has been planning this move for months. They waited for Mr. Cross to be locked up. Now they're taking everything. We're outgunned, outmanned, and outmaneuvered. There's no stopping it. There has to be something. There's not. We're in full retreat, trying to save who we can and burn what we can't protect. Sarah's phone buzzed. She looked at it. Her face went pale. They hit the Southside warehouse. 12 of our people dead. Amara felt sick. 12 people dead because Lucienne was in prison, because she'd testified and it hadn't been enough, because everything they'd fought for had crumbled. A man rushed in. They're 3 blocks away, moving on this location. We need to evacuate now. Grab the essentials, Sarah ordered. We're going dark. Full protocol. Everyone moved, grabbing laptops, files, weapons. The organized chaos of people who'd trained for this. Amara stood frozen. Then an idea hit. Insane. Impossible. The kind of thing that only worked in movies. What if we could get Lucian out? She asked. Everyone stopped, stared. Sarah spoke carefully. He's in federal custody, locked in a maximum security facility. It's not possible. You said the Bratva's hitting everything simultaneously. That means they're stretched thin too. And if we time it right, during the chaos, maybe we could... Absolutely not. Sarah's voice was firm. That's suicide. Versus what? Running? Letting him rot in prison while his whole organization gets destroyed? While everyone who ever worked for him dies? Amara's voice rose. He wouldn't run. He'd fight. He'd also have a plan, resources, time to prepare. We have none of that. We have desperation and the element of surprise. Amara looked at the screens, at the burning city. They think we're running. They think we're beaten. What if we're not? Silence. The security team exchanged looks. Sarah's expression was conflicted. Even if we wanted to try, which we don't, breaking someone out of federal custody is impossible. The facility has layers of security, armed guards, electronic locks. We'd need inside information, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A man stood there. Late 50s. Prison guard uniform. Badge that said his name was Martinez. Who the hell are you? Sarah's gun was out. Someone who's been on Mr. Cross's payroll for 8 years. Martinez stepped inside. And someone who knows exactly how to get him out. Sarah's eyes narrowed. You're the inside man. One of them. Mr. Cross has been preparing for this possibility since the day he started building his empire. He knew eventually someone would bring him down, so he made contingencies. Martinez pulled out a phone. Including me. I can get you into the facility, can override certain systems, can create a window, but it's small. Maybe 10 minutes. And if you're not out by then, everyone dies. Amara's pulse hammered. Can we do it? No, Sarah said immediately. Yes, Amara countered. We can, and we should, because if we don't, Lucien dies in prison, and everyone loyal to him dies in the streets. This is our only play. Sarah looked at her team, at Martinez, at Amara. The weight of the decision was visible in her eyes. This is insane, she said finally. I know. We'll all probably die. Probably. And if we succeed, we'll be fugitives for the rest of our lives. Better than being dead. Amara moved closer. Please, give us a chance. Sarah holstered her gun. Martinez, how fast can you set this up? 2 hours. Maybe less if we move now. Then move. Sarah started barking orders. The team scattered, plans formed. Amara stood in the center of the chaos and tried to believe this could actually work. 2 hours later, they were in position. 3 vehicles, 12 armed security personnel, Martinez inside the facility ready to create the window, and Amara wearing body armor that felt too heavy, holding a gun she barely knew how to use. You don't have to come, Sarah said from the driver's seat. Yes, I do. Amara checked the safety on the gun for the 5th time. He'd come for me. He'd want you safe. Then he shouldn't have made me fall in love with him. Sarah almost smiled. Fair enough. She checked her watch. Martinez opens the door in 3 minutes. We go in fast. Extract Lucien. Get out before the alarms bring the whole facility down on us. Simple. Nothing about this is simple. No, but it's all we've got. The seconds ticked down. Amara's heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her teeth. This was insane. They were going to die. All of them. But if they didn't try, Lucien would spend the rest of his life in a cell. And that was worse than death. Sarah's radio crackled. Windows open. You have 10 minutes. Go. The vehicles moved. Straight toward the facility, toward armed guards and electronic locks, and the kind of security that was designed to keep people in. Amara gripped her gun and prayed to anything listening that this worked. Because if it didn't, the man she loved would die thinking she'd abandoned him. And she'd die knowing she'd failed. The first gunshot shattered the windshield 3 seconds after they breached the perimeter. And then there was only chaos. Glass exploded across the dashboard. Sarah yanked the wheel hard left. The SUV fishtailed. Amara slammed against the door, body armor digging into her ribs. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions, guards on the facility walls, security towers, ground personnel converging on their position. Martinez said 10 minutes, Sarah screamed into her radio. Where's our inside access? Static. Then Martinez's voice, tight with strain. East entrance, security panels down. You have 8 minutes before backup systems engage. Sarah floored it. The SUV crashed through a chain-link fence. Metal screamed. The vehicle behind them took a direct hit. RPG from somewhere high. It flipped. Exploded. Bodies tumbled across pavement. Amara tasted copper, bit her tongue without realizing. Her hands white-knuckled the gun she still didn't know how to use properly. They reached the east entrance. Sarah was out before the vehicle stopped moving. Her team followed. Amara scrambled after them, legs shaking, adrenaline turning everything sharp and too bright. The door was open, just like Martinez promised. They poured through into a corridor that looked exactly like every prison movie Amara had ever seen. Concrete, fluorescent lights, the smell of industrial cleaner barely masking sweat and fear. Alarms started wailing. "That's early," one of Sarah's team shouted. "Backup systems engaged faster than expected." Martinez's voice crackled through the radio. "You have 4 minutes! Cell block D, 3rd level." They ran, boots pounding concrete. More guards appeared. Sarah's team engaged. The gunfire in the enclosed space was deafening. Amara pressed against a wall, hands over her ears, trying not to vomit from the adrenaline and terror. Someone grabbed her arm, pulled her forward. "Move, don't stop." She moved, through corridors, past cells where prisoners shouted, past bodies. Couldn't tell whose side they were on. Didn't matter. Everything was chaos and noise and the metallic taste of fear. They hit a stairwell, climbed. Sarah was in front, moving with brutal efficiency. 2 more of her team were down. Amara had lost count of how many. The numbers didn't matter anymore. Only forward motion. Only getting to Lucien. 3rd level. Cell block D. Reinforced doors. Electronic locks that Martinez had supposedly disabled. Sarah tried the first door. It opened. Empty cell. 2nd door. Empty. 3rd door. Locked. "Martinez!" Sarah screamed into the radio. "Door's still locked. Override's not taking. Secondary system must have engaged." His voice was panicked now. "You need to get out. Backup's arriving in 2 minutes." "Not without Cross." Sarah pulled out a small explosive charge. "Everyone back." The explosion was controlled but still massive in the enclosed space. Amara's ears rang. The door blew inward. Smoke poured out. And there, sitting calmly on a metal bunk like he'd been waiting for them, was Lucien. He looked up, saw Amara. His expression went through shock, rage, and something that might have been terror in the space of a heartbeat. "What the hell are you doing here?" His voice was rough, raw. "Saving you." Amara pushed past Sarah. "Come on. We have maybe 90 seconds. You were supposed to run." Lucien stood, moved toward her. "I told you to run. When have I ever listened to you?" She grabbed his arm. "Move!" They ran back the way they came. More guards appeared. Sarah's team engaged. The fighting was brutal. Close quarters. No room for error. Bodies hit the floor. Couldn't tell anymore who was winning. They reached the ground level. The east entrance they'd come through was now swarming with tactical teams. Federal agents. The cavalry had arrived. "West exit," Sarah pivoted. "There's a maintenance access." They changed direction. Amara's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. Lucien ran beside her, one hand on her back, steering her through the maze. He'd memorized this facility during processing, knew every corridor. The maintenance exit was ahead. 50 feet, 30, 20. An agent stepped out, raised his weapon. "Freeze!" Sarah didn't hesitate. Put 2 rounds center mass. The agent went down. They reached the door. It was locked. "Martinez!" Sarah's voice was hoarse. "West maintenance exit, now!" Nothing, just static. "Martinez is gone," Lucien said. His voice was flat. "They got him. We're on our own." Sarah pulled out another charge. "This is my last one. After this, we have nothing." "Then make it count." She set the charge. They backed up. The explosion took out the door and part of the wall. Alarms screamed louder. The whole facility was converging on their position. They burst outside into a loading area. 2 vehicles waited. Sarah's people. Engines running. Doors open. "Go!" Sarah shoved Amara toward the nearest vehicle. Lucien followed. They piled in. The driver floored it before the door closed. Behind them, the facility was pandemonium. Gunfire, spotlights, the wail of incoming sirens. They'd kicked the hornet's nest and now the whole swarm was chasing them. The vehicle careened through side streets. The driver knew the city. Took turns that shouldn't exist. Shortcuts through alleys barely wide enough for the SUV. Amara clung to the handle above her door and tried not to think about everything that had just happened. Lucien sat beside her, silent. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jump. Finally he spoke. "That was the stupidest thing you've ever done. Worked, didn't it? You could have died. Everyone who helped you could have died. Martinez is probably dead. He turned to look at her. His eyes were dark, furious. What were you thinking? I was thinking I wasn't going to let you rot in prison while your whole world burned. Amara met his glare. You would have done the same for me. That's different. How? Because I'm... He stopped, started again. Because you matter more. To who? You? That's not your call to make. Amara's voice rose. You don't get to decide my life is worth more than yours. You don't get to lock yourself away and expect me to just walk away. I'm not built like that. You should be. Well, I'm not. Deal with it. They stared at each other. The vehicle hit a pothole. Amara slammed against Lucian. He caught her, held her steady. Neither of them moved away. You're impossible, he said quietly. I learned from you. His expression softened, just slightly. We're fugitives now, both of us. There's no coming back from this. I know. The FBI will hunt us. The Bratva will hunt us. Every law enforcement agency in the country will be looking. I know. We'll be running for the rest of our lives. I know. Amara's hand found his. But we'll be running together. Lucian's fingers tightened around hers. You're sure about this? Once we cross this line, I crossed the line the moment I decided to break you out. There's no going back, so we go forward. The vehicle pulled into another underground garage. Different building, somewhere on the north side. They got out. Sarah was waiting with what was left of her team. 5 people. Out of 12 who'd started this insane rescue. Martinez is confirmed dead, Sarah said without preamble. So are 4 others. The Bratva hit 3 more safe houses while we were extracting you. We've lost 70% of our operational capacity in the last 6 hours. Lucian's expression went stone. How many dead total? 32 confirmed. Another 15 missing, presumed dead. 32 people. Dead because Lucian went to prison. Because his conviction created a power vacuum. Because Amara had insisted on a rescue mission instead of letting things play out. That's on me, Lucian said. His voice was hollow. Every single one. It's on the Bratva, Sarah corrected. They were waiting for this, planning. We were always going to take casualties. Not like this. Not this fast. He ran a hand through his hair. What's our current status? We have access to 3 offshore accounts they haven't found yet. About $12 million. We have weapons. 2 safe houses in the city, both compromised but not yet raided. And we have a cargo ship leaving for Rotterdam in 4 hours. If we can get on it, we can disappear. Rotterdam. Lucian looked at Amara. That's Europe. New identities, new lives. No coming back. I'm aware. Your art career, the classes you enrolled in, the apartment you just set up, all of that goes away. I can paint anywhere. I can take classes anywhere. And that apartment was always temporary. Amara stepped closer to him. What I can't do is live with myself if I run while you're locked in a cell. So if the choice is Rotterdam or losing you, Rotterdam wins. Sarah cleared her throat. We need to move. The ship won't wait, and every minute we're in this city is another chance for someone to find us. They had 2 hours to gather essentials. Amara spent it in a safe house bathroom, staring at her reflection. She looked like a stranger, pale, exhausted, eyes too big in her face. The past month had aged her years. There was a knock. It's me, Lucien's voice. She opened the door. He stood there holding clothes. These should fit. We're burning everything we're wearing. Too much evidence. Amara took the clothes. Thank you. He didn't leave. Just stood there looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. What? She asked. I'm trying to figure out how I got here. How I went from watching you from a distance to breaking out of federal prison because you refused to let me go. He shook his head. This isn't how this was supposed to work. How was it supposed to work? You were supposed to be safe, happy, living a normal life far from all this. He gestured at the safe house, the weapons, the remnants of his shattered empire. Not a fugitive running for her life. Plans change. Not like this. Not this drastically. He moved into the bathroom, closed the door behind him. The space was tiny. They were inches apart. I destroyed your life. You gave me a life. There's a difference. This isn't a life. This is survival. And that's different from the bakery. How? Amara set down the clothes. At least now I'm surviving on my own terms. With someone who actually gives a damn whether I wake up tomorrow. Of course I give a damn. Then stop trying to make me regret saving you. Her voice cracked. Stop acting like I made the wrong choice. Because if you genuinely believe that, then everything we've been through, everything I feel for you, is based on a lie. Lucien's composure shattered. He pulled her against him, hard, desperate, his face buried in her hair. I don't think you made the wrong choice. I think you made the brave choice, the selfless choice. And I don't deserve it. That's not your call either. Amara's arms came around him. You don't get to decide what you deserve. I do. And I decided you're worth fighting for. They stood like that for a long time. Two broken people holding each other together in a bathroom that smelled like bleach and fear. Outside, Sarah's team moved with quiet efficiency, preparing for the next run, the next escape, the next impossible survival. Finally, Lucien pulled back. We should get ready. Ship leaves in 90 minutes. Amara changed, burned her clothes in the industrial sink like Sarah instructed, watched the fabric blacken and curl. Evidence destroyed, the past erased. They left the safe house in 2 vehicles. Sarah split the team, Lucien and Amara in one, the rest scattered in the other. Insurance. If one vehicle got caught, the other might make it. The drive to the port was tense. Every siren made Amara's pulse spike. Every cop car felt like the end. But they made it. Pulled into a warehouse district. Abandoned buildings and rusted equipment. The kind of place where ships loaded cargo nobody asked questions about. The vessel was a mid-sized container ship, Panamanian flag. Crew that looked like they'd seen worse than fugitives. The captain took one look at Lucien and nodded. Money had already changed hands. Questions weren't part of the deal. They boarded. Were shown to a cargo container that had been converted into basic living quarters. 2 cots, a chemical toilet, bottled water, and MRES. It looked like a prison cell. 4 days to Rotterdam, the captain said in heavily accented English. You stay here. Don't come out. Don't make noise. We get boarded by customs. You don't exist. Understand? Understood, Lucien said. The captain left. The container door closed, locked from the outside. Darkness, except for a single battery-powered lantern. Sarah's voice came through a radio handset left on one of the cots. We're not coming with you. Someone needs to stay and clean up. Make sure the trails go cold. Sarah, Lucien started. Don't. This is my choice. You gave me a job when nobody else would. Trusted me with everything. This is me returning that trust. A pause. Take care of her. She's tougher than she looks, but she's going to need you. I will. Good luck, boss. The radio went silent. Amara sat on one of the cots. The reality of what they'd just done was sinking in. They were on a cargo ship heading to Europe. Fugitives. Criminals. Everything they owned burned or left behind, starting over with nothing but each other and 12 million in untraceable money. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like freedom. The ship's engines rumbled to life. They felt the vessel begin to move, away from the port, away from the city, away from everything that had tried to destroy them. Lucien sat beside her. We should talk about what happens when we get to Rotterdam. New identities, new lives. Amara leaned against him. We've been over this. I mean long term, what you want, what kind of life you're trying to build. And I want to paint. Take real classes at a real art school. Build something that's mine. She looked up at him. And I want you. However that works. Whatever that looks like. It's going to be complicated. We can't get legally married. Can't have anything in our real names. We'll always be looking over our shoulders. I know. And someday, maybe years from now, maybe sooner, someone might find us. Might come for us. We'll have to run again. I know that too. Amar took his hand. But we'll be together, and that makes it worth it. Lucien's expression was pained. You deserve better than a life on the run with a criminal. Stop telling me what I deserve. I'm an adult. I make my own choices, and I choose this. I choose you. She shifted to face him fully. Do you choose me? You know I do. Then say it, out loud. No more deflecting or trying to protect me from decisions I'm making with my eyes open. Say you want this. Want me. Want us. He looked at her. really looked. In the dim lantern light, she could see every scar, every hard edge, every piece of him that had survived through violence and calculation and refusing to let the world break him. "I want this," he said. His voice was rough. "I want you. More than I've wanted anything in 20 years, and it terrifies me because everyone I've ever cared about ends up dead or destroyed. But I can't walk away from you. I tried, failed. So yes, I choose you. I choose us, whatever that means. However long it lasts." Amara kissed him. Not desperate this time, not fueled by adrenaline or fear, just honest, real. Two people who'd survived hell and decided to build something in the ashes. When they broke apart, Lucien rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," in case that wasn't clear. "It was clear, but I like hearing it anyway." She smiled. "I love you too, even though you're impossible and stubborn and have terrible timing." Terrible timing? Falling for me while actively being destroyed by the FBI and the Russian mob? Yeah, terrible timing. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, like he'd forgotten how. Fair point. They lay down on one of the cots. It was too small for two people, but they made it work. Amara curled against Lucien's side. His arm came around her. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, she felt safe. The ship rocked gently. The engine's hum was almost soothing. Tomorrow they'd wake up in international waters. A day after that, they'd be halfway to Europe. A new continent, a new life. But tonight, in a converted shipping container in the middle of the ocean, they were just two people who'd survived the impossible and chosen each other anyway. Amara fell asleep listening to Lucien's heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. And she didn't dream of warehouses or gunfire or everything they'd lost. She dreamed of canvas and paint and a studio with north-facing windows where she could create whatever she wanted without fear. 4 days passed in the container. They ate MREs, played cards with a deck someone had left, talked about everything and nothing. Lucien told her stories about building his empire, the mistakes, the victories, the people he'd lost along the way. Amara told him about her mother, the good years before she died, the art they'd made together, the future Elena had wanted for her daughter. "She'd be proud of you," Lucien said on the third night, "for surviving, for fighting back, for refusing to be a victim." "She'd be horrified I'm dating a criminal." "Probably that too." He smiled, but mostly proud. When they finally docked in Rotterdam, a man was waiting, mid-40s, Dutch. He handed Lucien an envelope without speaking. Inside were passports, Dutch citizenship, new names. Amara was now Sophie Vermeer. Lucien was Andreas Bakker. The documents were flawless. Sarah sent these before... Lucien stopped. Before she died or got arrested or disappeared. They didn't know Sarah's fate. Might never know. That was the cost of this life. They left the port, took trains, changed cities 3 times in 2 days, finally settled in a small town outside Brussels. Far enough from major cities to avoid attention. Close enough to civilization to have art schools and opportunities. The apartment they rented was tiny. 3rd floor walk-up, 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. But it had good light, and it was theirs. Amara enrolled in art classes at a local academy, used their new identities, paid cash. The instructors were talented, demanding. They pushed her. She thrived. Lucien was restless at first. A man used to running an empire suddenly doing nothing. But slowly he found rhythm. He started consulting. Financial advice for people who needed money moved quietly. It was legal, mostly. Enough to keep them comfortable without drawing attention. Months passed. Then a year. They settled into a life that looked almost normal. Amara painted. Sold pieces through galleries that didn't ask questions. Built a reputation. Lucien handled their finances. Made investments. Ensured they'd never need to run again unless absolutely necessary. They bought a small house, nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms. A garage Lucien converted into a proper studio for Amara. North-facing windows, just like she'd dreamed. On the anniversary of the prison break, they were sitting on their back porch watching the sun set over fields that seemed impossibly peaceful after everything they'd survived. "Do you miss it?" Amara asked. "The power, the empire." Lucien considered. Sometimes, but mostly I miss the people, the ones who didn't make it out. Do you regret any of it? I regret the cost, the lives lost, the violence. He looked at her. But I don't regret you. Not for a second. Good. Because I don't regret you either. Amara leaned against him. Even though you're still impossible. And you're still stubborn. We're quite a pair. The worst. But he said it smiling. 3 months later, Amara had her first real gallery show, a small venue in Brussels. Nothing major. But critics came, collectors came. Her work, raw, emotional, born from trauma and survival, resonated. She sold everything. Lucien stood in the corner and watched her talk to admirers, watched her glow with pride and accomplishment. This was who she was supposed to be, who she would have been if life hadn't tried to break her first. She caught his eye across the room, smiled, mouthed, "I love you." He mouthed it back. That night, back in their small house, Lucien pulled out a box he'd been carrying for months. Small, velvet. Inside was a ring. "I know we can't legally get married," he said, "but I needed to ask anyway." Amara looked at the ring. Simple band. No diamonds. Just brushed platinum that caught the light. Amara Vale, or Sophie Vermeer, or whoever you want to be. Will you marry me? Not legally. Not officially. But in every way that actually matters. She didn't cry, didn't hesitate, just said yes. They got married in their living room. No guests. No ceremony. Just the two of them, and words they wrote themselves, promising to choose each other, to protect each other, to build something good out of the ashes of everything they'd lost. When Lucien slipped the ring on her finger, Amara felt something shift. Not magic, not fate, just the quiet certainty that this was right. That despite everything, the violence, the running, the cost, they'd found something worth keeping. 2 years after Rotterdam, Amara got a message through an encrypted channel. Sarah was alive, in hiding, safe. She'd dismantled what was left of Lucien's organization, made sure everyone who could be saved got out. The Bratva controlled the city now, but they'd paid a heavy price. 3 of their leaders were dead, 2 more in prison. The war had cost everyone. Lucien sent money, enough for Sarah to disappear properly. Start fresh. They'd never see her again, but knowing she survived made the grief of everything else slightly more bearable. 3 years in, Amara's work was showing in Paris. Real galleries. Critics used words like visceral and unflinching, and a new voice in contemporary art. She'd built a career, a reputation, a life. Lucien still consulted, still moved money, but he'd also started teaching financial literacy to refugees. People starting over. He understood that better than most. They never forgot what they'd lost, the people who died, the lives destroyed. But they also didn't let that define them. They built something new, something good. On quiet nights, they'd sit in Amara's studio and she'd paint while Lucien read. Comfortable silence, the kind that came from really knowing someone, from choosing them every day, even when it was hard. "Do you think we'll ever feel safe?" Amara asked once. "Really safe?" "No," Lucien said honestly. "There's always a chance someone finds us, recognizes us, decides to collect whatever bounty might still exist. That doesn't scare you?" "It terrifies me, but not as much as the thought of never having this, never having you." He set down his book. "I spent 36 years surviving, building walls, refusing to let anyone in. Then you crashed into my life and tore down every defense I had. And yes, that's dangerous. Yes, we might pay for it someday. But I'd rather have this messy, complicated, beautiful thing we built than go back to being alone." Amara set down her brush, crossed to where he sat, climbed into his lap. "You're not alone anymore. Neither are you." They kissed. Slow, deep. The kind of kiss that promised tomorrow and next week and next year. The kind that said we survived and we're still here and that's enough. 5 years after leaving the States, they were walking through a market in Brussels when Amara saw her. An old woman, late 70s maybe, sitting at a cafe, and for just a second, Amara could have sworn it was Carmen. She froze. Her pulse spiked. Lucien noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" I thought. Amara looked again. The woman was gone, or had never been there. Nothing, my imagination, but it rattled her. That night she couldn't sleep. Lucienne held her while she shook. What if they find us? She whispered. What if everything we built gets destroyed? Then we rebuild. Again. As many times as it takes. His voice was steady. I've lost everything before. Survived it. So have you. If it happens again, we'll survive again. Together. You promise? I promise. The fear faded. Not completely. It probably never would. But enough that Amara could breathe again. Could remember that they were stronger together than anything that could come for them. 7 years in, they bought a second property, a farmhouse outside Bruges. More space, room for a proper studio. A garden Lucienne started tending with unexpected dedication. They talked about the future, about maybe, someday, having kids. It was complicated given their circumstances, but not impossible. Would you want that? Amara asked. Children? Lucienne was quiet for a long time. I never thought I'd live long enough to consider it. My life was always temporary, borrowed time. He looked at her. But with you, I can imagine it. A future beyond just surviving, actual life. That's not an answer. Yes, I'd want that. If you want it, if we can make it work. We'll figure it out. We figured out everything else. They didn't rush it. Spent 2 more years building stability, making sure their identities were airtight, that they had contingencies if things went wrong. And then, carefully, deliberately, they started trying. It took time. Amara was 30 by then. Her body had been through trauma. The stress had taken its toll. But finally, almost a decade after leaving the States, she got pregnant. Lucienne cried when she told him. Actually cried. Tears streaming down his face while he held her and tried to find words. We're having a baby, Amara said, still processing it herself. We're having a baby, he repeated. Like saying it made it real. The pregnancy was hard. Amara's body fought it, but she was stubborn. So was the baby. And 9 months later, in a hospital in Brussels under their fake names, Elena Sophie Backer was born. They named her after Amara's mother, after the woman who'd saved Lucienne, who'd made him promise to protect her daughter, who'd set everything in motion. Lucienne held his daughter for the first time and looked at Amara with an expression she'd never seen, pure joy, unguarded, complete. She's perfect, he whispered. She's ours, Amara corrected. That's better than perfect. They brought Elena home to the farmhouse, converted the second bedroom into a nursery, learned how to be parents while still being fugitives. It was complicated, terrifying, the most beautiful thing either of them had ever done. Margaret found them when Elena was 6 months old. She'd spent years searching, used connections from her time running Lucienne's household, finally tracked them down through art sales and financial patterns. She showed up at their door one morning, older, grayer, but still herself. You're not easy to find, she said when Lucien opened the door. He stared. Margaret. May I come in? I've brought gifts for the baby I heard you had. They let her in. She met Elena, held her with practiced ease, then sat at their kitchen table and told them everything. Carmen had died 3 years ago, killed in prison. Amara felt nothing hearing it. The woman who'd raised her was a stranger, had been for years. The FBI had closed their case 18 months after Rotterdam. Officially, they were presumed dead, lost at sea or killed by rivals. Either way, no longer a priority. The Bratva still controlled the city, but they'd moved on. New enemies, new wars. Lucienne and Amara were old news. You're as safe as you're ever going to be, Margaret said, which isn't completely safe, but safer than you were. Why are you telling us this? Lucien asked. Because you deserve to know. And because I wanted to see for myself that you made it, that you're happy. She smiled at Elena. Seems like you are. We are, Amara said, more than I ever thought possible. Margaret stayed for 3 days, helped with the baby, cooked meals, told stories about the old estate and the people who'd worked there. Some had survived, others hadn't. She'd tried to help who she could. When she left, she hugged them both. Your mother would be proud, she told Amara, of everything you've become, everything you've survived. Thank you for everything, for helping me even when you didn't have to. You were worth helping. You both were. Margaret kissed Elena's forehead. Take care of this little one. She's got fighters for parents. She'll need that strength. After Margaret left, Lucien and Amara sat on their porch watching Elena sleep in her carrier. The sun was setting. The fields were gold. Do you think she'll ever know? Amara asked. About who we really are, what we did. Someday, when she's old enough to understand. Lucien's hand found Amara's. But we'll raise her to be better than us, to make different choices, to build without destroying. That's a lot of pressure. She'll handle it. She's got your stubbornness and my survival instincts. She'll be fine. Amara laughed. We're going to be terrible parents. Probably. But we'll love her. That's more than we got. It's a start. Elena stirred, made a small noise. Both of them immediately checked on her. She settled, went back to sleep. Two former criminals standing guard over the tiny human they'd created, prepared to burn down the world to keep her safe, just like Lucien had done for Amara, just like Amara had done for him. Years passed. Elena grew, started talking, walking, painting with her mother, learning numbers with her father. She was bright, curious, asked questions about everything. When she was 5, she asked why their last name was different from the one in Mama's paintings. Amara and Lucien looked at each other. They'd prepared for this, had a story ready. But looking at their daughter's innocent face, they chose honesty, age-appropriate honesty, but truth nonetheless. Sometimes people need to start over, Amara said. Sometimes the life they had before doesn't work anymore, so they choose a new name, a new beginning. Why did you need to start over? Because we were in danger, and we needed to be safe so we could have you. Elena considered this. Are we safe now? Safer, Lucien said. Safe enough. Good. She went back to her coloring. Crisis averted. For now. When Elena was 7, Amara had her second gallery show in Paris. Major venue. International critics. Her work had matured. The raw pain was still there, but tempered now, mixed with hope, with light. The show sold out, every piece, for amounts that would have seemed impossible a decade ago. Lucien stood in the gallery beside their daughter and watched Amara shine. This was who she was always meant to be. Artist, mother, survivor, fighter. Mama's famous, Elena whispered. Your mama's always been special, Lucien corrected. Now other people just noticed too. That night, back in their Brussels apartment, they celebrated. Champagne for the adults, sparkling cider for Elena. They toasted to success, to survival, to the family they'd built against all odds. Elena fell asleep on the couch. Lucien carried her to bed. Amara followed. They stood in the doorway watching their daughter sleep, this tiny person who existed because they'd refused to give up, refused to run, refused to let the world win. We did it, Amara said quietly. We actually pulled it off. What? Built a life, a real life. Not just survival, but actual living. Lucien's arm came around her. We did, and it's better than anything I imagined. They went to their own bedroom, made love quietly, carefully, the way parents did when their kid was sleeping down the hall. Afterward, they lay tangled together, comfortable, complete. I never thanked you, Amara said into the darkness, for that day in the bakery, for stepping in, for changing everything. You never needed to thank me. I made a promise to your mother. I kept it. You did more than keep a promise. You gave me a life. She propped herself up on one elbow, looked at him in the dim light from the window. You gave me everything. No, you took everything. You fought for it, earned it. I just opened the door. You walked through. We walked through, together. Together, he agreed. They fell asleep like that. Two people who'd started as criminal and victim, who'd become partners, lovers, parents, who'd survived federal prosecution and gang wars and being fugitives, who'd built something beautiful in the ashes. 15 years after leaving the States, they were just Sophie and Andreas Bakker, parents to a brilliant 12-year-old daughter, living quietly in Belgium. Lucien consulted. Amara painted. Elena excelled in school and showed early signs of her mother's artistic talent and her father's strategic mind. They never forgot who they really were, the names they'd left behind, the people who'd died, the costs they'd paid. But they didn't let that define them anymore. They were more than their trauma, more than their mistakes, more than fugitives running from a past that would never completely let go. They were a family. And on quiet nights, when Elena was asleep and the world was still, Lucienne and Amara would sit in her studio. He'd read, she'd paint, comfortable in the silence that came from really knowing someone. "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if I'd never walked into that bakery?" Lucian asked once. Amara set down her brush, considered. "I'd probably still be there, working myself to death. Maybe Carmen would have succeeded in selling me. Maybe I'd have escaped eventually. Who knows? Do you wish I hadn't interfered? Are you asking if I regret this? Us? Everything we built?" "I suppose I am." Amara crossed to where he sat, took his face in her paint-stained hands. "I regret nothing. Not the fear, not the running, not the cost. Because all of it led here, to this house, this life. You, Elena, everything that matters." Lucian pulled her into his lap. "I love you, more than I've loved anything, more than I thought I was capable of loving. I know I love you too." She kissed him, soft, deep. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me back." They sat like that until the moon rose, until the paint on Amara's hands dried, until it was time to go to bed and wake up tomorrow and do it all again. Because that's what life was. Not the big moments, not the dramatic escapes or the passionate declarations, just the quiet choosing, every single day, to stay, to fight, to love despite everything. And 20 years after a man in a black suit stood up in a dying bakery and told a cruel woman that her cruelty ended now, Amara Vale, now Sophie Backer, sat at her daughter's college graduation and felt something she'd never expected. Peace. Not the absence of fear. Not forgetting where she'd come from. But the deep knowledge that she'd survived. That she'd built something worth surviving for. That the girl who'd scrubbed floors and believed she was worthless had become a woman who created beauty and raised a child and loved a man who'd once been the most dangerous person in the city. Lucian sat beside her, grayer now, lines around his eyes. But still him. Still the man who'd watched her for years, who'd paid her freedom, who'd taken a bullet for her, who'd let her break him out of prison instead of running like he'd begged her to. Elena walked across the stage, accepted her diploma, art history and business, planning to open her own gallery someday. She had her mother's talent and her father's mind. The world didn't stand a chance. "We did good," Amara whispered. Lucian's hand found hers. "We did." After the ceremony, Elena found them in the crowd, threw her arms around both of them. "Thank you for everything, for giving me this." "You earned this," Amara said. "Every bit of it." "I know, but I couldn't have done it without you. Without the example you set." Elena pulled back, looked at them both seriously. "I know you think I don't know, but I do. I've known for years about who you really are, where you came from." Amara's blood went cold. "Elena, it's okay. I'm not upset. I'm grateful." Her daughter smiled. "You could have run, could have left me behind or never had me at all. But you didn't. You chose to be parents even though it was dangerous, even though it complicated everything, and you've been amazing." Lucian's voice was rough. "How long have you known?" "Since I was 14. I found old documents, did research, figured it out." Elena shrugged. "I never said anything because it didn't matter. You're my parents. Whatever you did before, whatever names you used, that doesn't change anything." Amar pulled her daughter into another hug. This beautiful, brilliant young woman they'd raised, who knew their secrets and loved them anyway. "I'm proud of you," Amara whispered. "So proud." "I'm proud of you too, Mama. Both of you. For surviving. For building this. For being brave enough to choose each other even when the world said you shouldn't." They left the graduation together. 3 people bound by blood and choice and the kind of love that survived everything. They went to dinner, celebrated, talked about Elena's future, about the gallery she wanted to open, about the life she was building, and that night, back in their house, the farmhouse they'd bought 20 years ago and never left, Lucienne and Amara stood on the porch watching stars emerge. She knows, Amara said. She knows, Lucienne agreed, and she loves us anyway. We got lucky. We worked for it. There's a difference. He pulled her close. But yes, we also got lucky. They stood like that until the stars were fully out, until the night air turned cold, until it was time to go inside to the life they'd built, the life that had cost them everything and given them more than they'd dreamed possible. Amara looked at the man beside her, the one who'd changed her world with a single sentence spoken in a dying bakery, who'd kept a promise to a dead woman for 8 years, who'd loved her through trauma and fear and federal prosecution and gang wars and parenthood and everything in between. I'd do it again, she said. All of it. Every choice. Every cost. Every moment. I'd do it all again if it meant ending up here, with you. Lucian kissed her forehead. So would I. And that was the truth neither of them could have predicted 23 years ago, when a girl with a bleeding hand followed a stranger to a car and chose to trust him. They'd survived. They'd built something. They'd loved. And in the end, that was more than survival. That was life. Real life. Hard-won and precious and worth every sacrifice. They went inside, locked the door, turned off the lights, climbed into bed in the house they'd made a home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears. The past would never completely let go. But tonight they had each other. They had their daughter. They had the life they'd fought for. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.